I can't do this anymore, Nathan. You've cheated again. Let's just get divorced. My voice was steady, but inside I was crumbling. The living room of our modest home, once a sanctuary of love and laughter, felt cold and uninviting. Nathan stood there, his back to the fading sunset outside the window. His silhouette was as hard and unyielding as the man himself. Divorce? Really, Elise? After all this time? Nathan's voice was laced with sarcasm. He turned to face me, a smirk playing on his lips, the same lips that whispered sweet nothings and later lies. Yes, Nathan, 4 years of marriage and all I've earned are lies and betrayal. Even your parents agree with me. I felt a surge of courage, bolstered by the unexpected support from his parents. I saw their disapproving glances at their son, their sympathetic looks towards me. Nathan's face hardened. My parents? Ha! What do they know about our marriage? They know enough. My words were a whisper, but they sliced through the tension in the room. Nathan's smirk vanished, replaced by a sneer. Fine, Elise, you want a divorce? You'll get it. But remember, you're leaving with nothing. No alimony, no child support. You can take my parents and those brats with you. His words stung, but I stood my ground. I don't care about your conditions, Nathan. All I know is I can't be your wife any longer. He scoffed. You think you can survive without me? You're nothing without me, Elise. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I'd rather have nothing than live a lie with you. Nathan stepped closer, his face inches from mine. You know, being cheated on. Maybe it's also the fault of the person being cheated on. Ever thought of that, Elise? His words were a slap across my face. I recoiled, not from his proximity, but from the venom in his voice. The Nathan I once knew, the man I fell in love with, was gone. In his place stood a stranger, cold and cruel. I've grown tired of your whining and your pathetic face. You know what? A good-looking divorced man is quite the catch. His voice dripped with arrogance. I stared at him, my heart racing with a mix of fear and anger. Is this really who you are, Nathan? He shrugged. Take it or leave it, Elise. I don't care. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I'm leaving, Nathan, and I'm taking our daughters with me. They don't deserve a father like you. Nathan laughed, a hollow, mocking sound. Good luck, Elise. You'll come crawling back. They always do. But I knew I wouldn't. I turned my back on Nathan, on our life together, and walked away. The door closed behind me with a finality that echoed in my heart. It was over. The battle was just beginning, but I had taken the first step towards freedom. As I walked away, I realized this was not just the end. It was a new beginning. The morning after I left Nathan, I found myself at his parents' house. The air was thick with unspoken words as I sat at their kitchen table, my twin daughters playing quietly at my feet. Mr. and Mrs. Hamilton, Nathan's parents, exchanged a glance full of sorrow and regret. Elise, we need to tell you something about Nathan, Mr. Hamilton began, his voice heavy with unease. Something we should have shared a long time ago. I nodded, bracing myself for more revelations. Nathan has always been, well, charming to women. Since high school, Mrs. Hamilton interjected, her voice trembling. He would date multiple girls, juggling them without a care. My heart sank. The man I married, the father of my children, was a habitual cheater. It wasn't just a lapse in judgment, it was a pattern. We thought he changed when he met you, Mr. Hamilton continued, his voice filled with disappointment. But we were wrong. We're so sorry, Elise. I felt a mix of anger and sadness, but mostly I felt betrayed. Not just by Nathan, but by everyone who knew and said nothing. Why didn't you tell me? The question came out as a whisper, more to myself than to them. We hoped he had changed, Mrs. Hamilton said, tears in her eyes, but we were wrong. We failed you both. The revelation was a bitter pill to swallow. Nathan's parents, whom I had come to love and respect, had kept this crucial piece of information from me. Yet their remorse was genuine. Thank you for telling me now, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. But I need to think about what to do next. As I left their house, my mind was racing. Nathan's betrayal wasn't just a one-time thing. It was a part of who he was. And I had been blind to it all. In the following days, I poured my energy into my job search. With a renewed sense of purpose, I landed a position at a marketing firm. It wasn't just about financial independence. It was about reclaiming my identity. I also started gathering evidence of Nathan's infidelity. Every receipt, every late-night call, every unexplained absence. I meticulously documented everything. If Nathan thought I was going to walk away quietly, he was sorely mistaken. The final straw came a week later when I discovered another love letter in Nathan's belongings, filled with passionate declarations. It was like a punch to the gut. Confronting him wasn't an option. I needed a different approach, an approach that would hit him where it hurt the most. I called my lawyer and set the wheels in motion for the divorce. Nathan would learn the hard way that betrayal comes with a price, and I was going to make sure he paid it in full. I sat across from my lawyer, Mr. Jacobs, in his stark, unadorned office. The papers in front of me were a tangible representation of my newfound resolve. "Everything's in order," Mr. Jacobs said, adjusting his glasses. "Once Nathan is served these papers, the process begins. Are you ready for this?" I nodded, feeling a mix of apprehension and determination. "I am. Nathan needs to understand that he can't just walk over people without consequences." Mr. Jacobs gave me an understanding look. "And the evidence of his affairs?" "I have them," I replied, handing him a folder thick with documentation. Photos, messages, receipts, everything that painted the sordid picture of Nathan's betrayal. "Good. This will strengthen your case for alimony and child support. It's not just about the money, Elise. It's about holding him accountable." As I left the lawyer's office, I felt a sense of empowerment. I wasn't just a victim of Nathan's infidelity. I was a woman taking control of her life. The following weeks were a whirlwind. I juggled my new job, caring for my daughters, and the divorce proceedings. It was exhausting, but with each passing day, I felt stronger, more capable. Then came the day Nathan was served the divorce papers. His reaction was immediate and explosive. He called me, his voice dripping with anger and disbelief. "Are you out of your mind, Elise? You think you can take me to the cleaners and get away with it?" I held the phone away from my ear, his tirade a distant, angry buzz. When he finally paused for breath, I spoke calmly. "It's not about revenge, Nathan. It's about fairness. You broke our marriage vows, and now you have to face the consequences." "You won't get a dime from me," he spat. "We'll see," I replied, and ended the call. That night, I lay awake, thinking about the path ahead. It was going to be a tough battle, but I was ready for it. Nathan had underestimated me, and that was his biggest mistake. I thought about my daughters, sleeping peacefully in the next room. They deserved a better life, a life free from the shadow of their father's deceit. And I was going to give it to them, no matter what it took. Nathan's true colors were showing, and everyone was going to see them. The charming, handsome man they knew was just a facade. Underneath lay a man capable of deceit and betrayal, and I was going to expose him for who he really was. The game had just begun, and I was playing to win. The courtroom was cold and sterile, the air charged with tension. I sat rigidly, my lawyer beside me as we waited for the judge to enter. Across the room, Nathan sat with his lawyer, his expression one of smug confidence. As the judge entered and proceedings began, I felt a knot in my stomach. This was it, the moment of truth. "Nathan Taylor, the evidence presented by your wife indicates a pattern of infidelity and financial irresponsibility," the judge began, his voice stern. "How do you respond to these allegations?" Nathan stood, his posture relaxed, almost dismissive. "Your Honor, my wife is exaggerating. Sure, I might have had a few indiscretions, but who hasn't? She's blowing this whole thing out of proportion." His cavalier attitude infuriated me. He still didn't grasp the severity of his actions. "Mr. Taylor, this is a court of law, not a social club. I advise you to take these proceedings seriously," the judge warned. As the hearing progressed, Nathan's facade began to crumble. Each piece of evidence my lawyer presented seemed to hit him like a physical blow. Photos, messages, bank statements, the truth laid bare for all to see. When it was my turn to speak, I stood, my hands trembling slightly. "Your Honor, I entered this marriage believing in love and trust. What I got instead was deception and heartache. Nathan's actions have not only broken our family, but have also set a poor example for our children." Nathan rolled his eyes, a gesture that didn't go unnoticed by the judge. The impact of his actions goes beyond just emotional pain. Financially, I was left in a vulnerable position, having to start from scratch while caring for our daughters. "I seek fair compensation, not out of spite, but out of necessity," I concluded, my voice steady. The judge nodded, making notes. "Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. Your statement has been noted." As the hearing ended, Nathan approached me, his expression a mix of anger and disbelief. "You're going to regret this, Elise. You've made an enemy out of me." I met his gaze squarely. "No, Nathan, you did that all by yourself." Leaving the courtroom, I felt a sense of closure. This was more than just a legal battle. It was a fight for my dignity and the future of my children. Nathan had shown his true colors, and now he would face the consequences. The drama was far from over, but I had taken a significant step in reclaiming my life, and I was ready for whatever came next. The divorce settlement was more than just a legal victory. It was a moral one. Nathan had been ordered to pay a substantial amount in alimony and child support, a decision that left him seething. A few days after the ruling, I received a call from Nathan. His voice was a mix of anger and desperation. "You think you've won, Elise? You think you can just take my money and run? You've ruined me." His words were meant to intimidate me, but I felt an inner strength that hadn't been there before. "This isn't about winning or losing, Nathan. It's about taking responsibility. You made your choices, and now you're facing the consequences. You'll pay for this. I'll make sure of it," he threatened. "Threats won't change anything, Nathan. It's time for you to start facing reality," I replied before ending the call. In the weeks that followed, Nathan tried various tactics to evade his financial obligations. But with the law on my side and a determined lawyer, we countered each attempt. Meanwhile, word of Nathan's actions and the divorce began to spread. His reputation, once that of a charming and successful businessman, was now tarnished. He faced scrutiny and judgment from those he once considered friends and colleagues. As I rebuilt my life, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Nathan was finally experiencing the fallout of his actions. His once carefree life was now filled with the repercussions of his choices. But it wasn't just about Nathan's downfall. This was also about my rise from the ashes of a broken marriage. I was building a new life for myself and my daughters, a life free from lies and betrayal. One evening, as I put my daughters to bed, my younger daughter looked up at me with her big, innocent eyes. "Mommy, are you happy now?" Her question caught me off guard, but then I smiled. "Yes, sweetheart, I am. We're going to be just fine." As I kissed them goodnight, I felt a sense of peace. The storm had passed, and in its wake, it had left a newfound strength and resilience in me. Nathan's downfall was a harsh reminder of the price of deceit, but it was also a testament to the power of standing up for oneself. I had fought for justice, not just for me, but for my children as well. The chapter of Nathan was closed, but a new chapter was beginning for us, one filled with hope and the promise of a brighter future. The world outside my window seemed brighter, the air fresher. It had been 6 months since the divorce was finalized, and life had taken on a new rhythm. My daughters were thriving, happy and adjusted, and I had found fulfillment in my job and newfound independence. One afternoon, as I sat in my office, my phone buzzed. It was a call from Nathan. Hesitant, I answered. "Elise, you've destroyed my life." Nathan's voice was frantic, a stark contrast to his once cool demeanor. I sighed. "Nathan, you did that yourself. I just stopped accepting it." "I lost my job because of the scandal, Elise. Because of you." His voice cracked with desperation. "That was the result of your actions, Nathan, not mine," I replied firmly. "You think you're better off without me? You think you've won?" His words were laced with bitterness. "I didn't do this to win, Nathan. I did it to survive, to protect our children. This isn't a game, it's life, and it's time you took responsibility for yours." There was silence on the other end, and then he hung up. I stared at the phone for a moment, reflecting on how far I had come. In the months following the divorce, rumors of Nathan's behavior had circulated. His charming facade had crumbled, revealing the man beneath. He had lost his job, his reputation, and much of his social circle. The consequences of his actions were catching up to him. But for me, life was moving in a positive direction. I had reconnected with old friends, made new ones, and my relationship with my daughters had never been stronger. We had created a new family unit, one built on love, trust, and respect. As I left work that day, I thought about the journey I had been on, from the pain and betrayal to the fight for justice and the rebuilding of my life. It had been a difficult path, but one that led to growth and empowerment. Nathan's downfall was a harsh lesson in accountability. For me, it was a reminder that no matter how dark things seem, there is always a path to light. I picked up my daughters from school, their laughter and chatter filling the car, As we drove home, I realized that this was what true happiness felt like. It wasn't just about overcoming Nathan, it was about rediscovering myself and building a better future for my family. The road ahead was uncertain, but I faced it with a sense of hope and optimism. The chapter of Nathan was closed, but our story was just beginning. A story of resilience, strength, and the unbreakable bond of a mother and her children.
Come over here quick. Jackson just called me out of the blue and said he threw Mom out of the house. He wants me to deal with her now, I explained, feeling confused and surprised. What? That's awful. He really kicked Mom out. Come and see for yourself, Jackson urged. Oh, when I let her take Dad's memorial tablet. Why would he be so mean? Now that there's no money left from Dad's stuff, he doesn't want Mom around anymore. He sees her as a problem. I couldn't believe it. It turns out Dad had debts, and after paying them off, there wasn't any money left for us. I had no idea about this, and to make things worse, Jackson and his wife had been living in our family home all this time. It felt incredibly unfair. It's getting dark soon. If you don't come to pick her up, Mom will be sleeping on the streets. How could you be so cruel? I will never forgive you for this, Jackson, I said, feeling upset. I don't need your forgiveness. That's just too harsh, Jackson replied, hanging up without listening to me. He didn't answer any of my subsequent calls. When I finally got through to Mom, she confirmed everything Jackson had said. Angry at him and worried for Mom, I had no choice but to drive over to where she was. Let me introduce myself. I'm Lily, I'm 27 years old, and I'm in a hurry. 3 years ago, I married Mason, who's also 27, and we've been living together since. At first, we lived with my parents in our family home. But 2 years ago, my brother Jackson and his wife suddenly moved in. They claimed the house was too crowded with us there, so we had to leave. Jackson, who's 8 years older than me, has always been selfish, but his marriage seems to have made him even worse. Our family home, where I grew up, is a big house with a lot of space and land. It's been passed down from my grandfather. There's no reason we can't all live comfortably together. I wasn't happy about the situation and tried to talk to Jackson about it. But my husband, who doesn't like arguing, convinced us to leave. Around that time, my dad got sick with liver cirrhosis, and it was already pretty bad. I wanted to be there for him in his last days, but I couldn't. His illness got worse quickly, and he passed away a month ago. It's really hard not knowing that my mom must be feeling even worse than me, dealing with my brother treating us this way right after losing Dad. It's just sad. An hour later, when we got to our family home, Mom was sitting sadly on a suitcase in the garden. The front door was locked. Jackson had taken her keys. I used my keys to unlock the door and went inside with Mom. Jackson and Olivia were lounging on the sofa, watching TV like nothing was wrong. What's going on? How did you get in? Jackson asked, acting like he didn't know what was going on. I used my key to open the front door. Isn't it obvious? I replied, feeling frustrated. It slipped my mind. Leave your key, take the old lady, and go. This isn't funny. How can you be watching TV after kicking your own mother out of the house? Besides, if the house remained even after Dad's debts were paid off, Mom has a right to live here. I shot back, getting more and more angry at Jackson's attitude. I stood in front of the TV. Mom has a right to inherit this house. If you can't live with her, you should be the one to leave, Jackson, I said firmly. Shut up. This house is mine. Dad gave it to me when he was alive. Don't act smart without knowing anything, Jackson retorted defensively. What do you mean? There's no way Dad gave this house to you, Jackson, before he died, Mom interrupted, looking confused and shaking her head. Seeing our confusion, Jackson smirked and stood up from the sofa, pulling out an envelope from a room in the back. Look at this. What's this? It's proof that I inherited this house, Jackson declared proudly. The envelope contained documents proving his inheritance, prepared by a legal writer, and his real estate ownership certificate. He explained that the property had been transferred to his name a month before Dad passed away. Mom and I were stunned as we examined the documents. Why would Dad do something like this? I sighed, gazing at his picture. Why would Dad hand over the house to Jackson without talking to Mom about it? Because I'm his favorite, obviously. I convinced him that Mom would get the house after he passed away. So he gave it to me while he was still alive, Jackson bragged. That can't be. I refuse to believe it. Wake up and see the truth, Mom argued. No matter how many times we looked at the document, the property was indeed in Jackson's name. All this fuss over a house, my mom muttered in disbelief. Is there nothing else left for Mom? No other inheritance? Be grateful that the debts are paid off. This can't be happening. You're not just worried about Mom, you realize there's no inheritance for you either, right? Jackson sneered. The bank card he handed over had only a few dollars on it. I wasn't expecting Dad's inheritance, but it was a shock to find out he left me nothing. This is too harsh, I thought. To make things worse, Olivia was laughing at us, enjoying our misery. Just leave. You poor people don't belong here, she mocked. Jackson and Olivia pushed us out of the house forcefully. Ouch, that hurts. Mom cried out as she fell and scraped her hand. Blood started to trickle out, so I quickly wrapped it with my handkerchief. Tears of frustration rolled down my cheeks. Seeing me upset, my mom gently wiped away my tears. Her eyes were filled with sadness too. Mom, our place is small, but you can stay with us, I offered. But I don't want to bother Mason. I'll find somewhere else to stay, Mom protested. Don't worry, I can't just leave you like this. I'm going to call Mason right now. Just wait, I assured her. Wiping away my tears, I grabbed my cell phone and dialed my husband's number. Mason answered after a few rings. Hello? Mason, I'm sorry to bother you out of the blue. Mom has been kicked out of her house, I explained. As I told him what happened, Mason listened attentively, though he seemed a bit unsure. I held my breath, waiting for his response. Our apartment is pretty small compared to Mom's house. It might not be the most comfortable, Mason started. But I don't mind. Bring your mom over. We've been helped out in tough times too. We should help each other when we can. Thank you so much, Mason, I said gratefully. My husband is such a kind person. He couldn't leave someone in need. We quickly took Mom to our apartment, and from that day on, we lived together. But living with 3 people in our small apartment was tight. We didn't have enough money saved up to buy a house yet, but maybe moving to a slightly bigger place in the future would be a good idea. It was heartbreaking to see Mom squeezed into our small apartment. As my husband and I browsed through property listings on the computer, Mom's phone rang. After a brief conversation, she dropped a bombshell. Why don't we move to my Highlands condominium? She suggested. Hold on, what Highlands condominium? I asked, completely surprised. Mom went on to explain that my wealthy grandfather had been a big spender, leaving my grandmother with no choice but to sell their farmland to keep up. As for Dad, he was also known for spending a lot. And besides the house, we didn't have many assets. Worried about our future, Mom had wisely invested her earnings from before she got married in real estate. My husband and I were floored. It turns out, Mom not only owned a condominium in the Highlands but also managed an apartment building, earning a significant income from her investments. I can't believe it. I'm sorry for not telling you sooner, Mom apologized. Anyway, the management company just called. There's an opening in the Highlands condominium. We can move in next month. What do you think? She proposed. We couldn't refuse such a generous offer. Plus, the Highlands condominium had 3 bedrooms, a living room, a dining room, and a kitchen, all just a 5-minute walk from the station. It was much more comfortable than our current situation. Thank you, Mom, but we might only be able to afford the same rent as we do for the apartment. I expressed my concern. You don't need to worry about that. We have to do things properly, even if we're family, my mom insisted. Oh, I need to let the landlord know we're moving out. Seeing my husband and me smiling with happiness, Mom's face lit up too. Time flew by as we got ready to move into our new home at the Highlands condominium. Before we knew it, 2 months had passed since we settled in. As I was getting ready to go shopping, I was surprised to see the Jackson couple suddenly appear at the entrance of the condominium. Why are you, a poor person, living in the Highlands condominium? Did you come into some money or what? Olivia sneered. Of course not. The Highlands condominium has always belonged to my mom, I replied firmly. Both Jackson and Olivia were shocked. What? They exclaimed together, staring up at the tall building. I couldn't help but laugh at their confused and silly expressions. Jackson's face turned red with anger. That deceitful woman. I can't believe she kept this from us while pretending to be poor. My mom never said she was poor. You just assumed that, Jackson. Plus, she inherited a big house. What's wrong with that? I argued. That's not the point. Don't chap here. It's rude to the other people living here. And how did you know I was here? Jackson demanded. Jackson said that when he couldn't reach Mom, he tracked her down using her phone's location. Olivia explained. Why are you trying to contact Mom now after kicking her out? I bet something mean again, I accused. Regardless, if Mom is here, I want to see her. Let me in now, Jackson demanded. You must be kidding. If you hurt Mom again, I couldn't stand it. If you have something to say, tell me, I insisted. But they kept pushing to see my mom without saying why. The Jackson couple seemed quite flustered. Weren't you two living comfortably in your big family house, just the two of you? I questioned. It's none of your business, Jackson snapped. Fine, if you don't want to tell me, that's okay. I have to go now. Bye, I said, trying to walk past them. But Jackson suddenly grabbed my arm tightly. Ouch, let me go, I protested. Just call Mom. Absolutely not. I'll call the police, I threatened. But Jackson just scoffed at me. There's no way the police would come for a simple family argument. Even if they did, there's no way you could sue me for just grabbing your arm. Feeling defeated, I stayed quiet. Fine, I'll tell my mom, but only if you tell me why you're here, I relented. The utility bills for that house are ridiculous. Just for the AC, the electric bill is $500. This is no joke, Olivia explained. Their old traditional style house had more than 8 rooms, so it was no surprise that utility costs were high. But even so, a $500 electricity bill seemed a little steep. It was a particularly hot summer, so they probably overused the AC. I thought you would have known that from the start. How would we have known? Mom used to pay the bills. Jackson scratched his head frantically as Olivia fumed. There's no way we would have known. Do you know the property tax for that house is $5,000 a year? Olivia exclaimed. What? I can't believe you didn't know. Why would an old house like that cost so much? How are we supposed to pay that? Jackson protested. Our house is old and has a large yard, so it's only natural that it would cost a lot to maintain, I pointed out. I also mentioned a reality to the Jacksons that they might not have realized. And apparently it costs more in taxes to give away property while you're alive than after you pass away, I added. Wait, is that true? Jackson asked, stunned. I didn't know before, but now I know. My mom told me all this, I said, watching as the Jacksons looked really surprised. Olivia got mad and blamed them, saying, it's your fault for not doing your homework. Then they started arguing right in front of me. Jackson said, we worked hard to get Dad to change the name on the house. And now this is too much. I can't believe Dad did something sneaky like this. He even said it would be better to give it to me than to Mom. That's not fair. I realized, feeling shocked by my dad's actions. Taking advantage of the situation, Jackson said something surprising. You can have the house. Let's trade it for this Highlands condominium. Confused, I responded. What are you saying? The house isn't mine. It belongs to Mom. Please talk to Mom for me, I beg you. I'll just pass on your message, nothing more. What on earth are you even talking about? Jackson snapped, feeling foolish for even talking to them. I gave up on shopping and started walking back into the Highlands condominium through the entrance. But the Jacksons tried to follow me, which surprised me. I'll sue you for trespassing, I warned them. You just said that wouldn't be a legal problem, Olivia shot back. It seems like they won't understand until they face a real consequence, I sighed in frustration. I called out to the management office next to the entrance. Excuse me, could you please call security? Someone who doesn't live here is trying to get in. Wait a moment, the security guard, who was always on duty at the Highlands condominium, rushed over immediately. With the big security guard standing in front of them, the Jacksons looked startled. Once again, I warned them to avoid a repeat of the situation in the future. I didn't call the police just now because you only grabbed my arm. But if you try to use force or come back to the Highlands condominium, I will really call the police, understand? Don't make us do that. If I see you again, I'll report it, so go back to your mansion from Dad. Got it? I told them firmly. Looking scared of the police, the Jacksons quickly backed off. I returned to my apartment and told my mom about what happened with the Jacksons. But why did Dad let Jackson inherit the house? I asked, feeling sad. My mom smiled. Dad must have had a reason when he let Jackson inherit the house. He didn't want to trouble me or you, Lily. Even though Dad wasn't very interested in money, he cared a lot about me. Remember, he always said he loved you, Lily, so much, she added. Really? I was so happy to hear that my dad cared about me so much. When my mom heard about the house from Jackson, she muttered, "Is he going this far?" Because she realized he had given Jackson a serious punishment, even though Jackson was always selfish. "You knew how Dad felt, Mom?" I asked, surprised. "Of course, dear. We've been together for 38 years. I know what he's thinking without him saying a word. Besides, Jackson never took care of Dad when he was sick," my mom explained. "I misunderstood Dad. I feel terrible. I want to apologize," I admitted. "Don't worry, Lily. Your feelings are reaching Dad in heaven. The ones who should worry are the Jacksons, who these days would buy a big, high-maintenance house like that." "I bet they'll struggle to find a buyer," my mom said with a smirk. After a while, it became clear that my mom was right. The Jacksons couldn't handle the house on their own and put it up for sale, but couldn't find anyone to buy it. They kept living there even a year later. Amidst all this, Olivia accidentally started a grease fire while cooking chicken in the house. It quickly burned down, and since they didn't have money for fire insurance, their life was going to get even tougher. Well, while I understand their problem, it's not my concern, I thought, feeling thankful for my life in the Highlands condominium. Living in the Highlands condominium was amazing, and I could only feel grateful to my mom. I've been paying her rent every month, but it seems she's been saving it to make sure we won't struggle in the future. Every day is peaceful and happy as I live with my wonderful mother and caring husband. Visiting my father's grave, I promised him that I would always repay my mother's kindness. Everyone has one or two secrets they'd rather keep hidden, and I'm no different. When I was younger, I was quite wild. Now, I'm a quiet and unassuming woman, but losing my parents at 15 sent me down a wrong path. I ended up joining a gang of troublemakers. I got some of the girls from the gang together and started our own group. Because my dad made me learn wrestling when I was a kid, I was known around town for being really strong, even stronger than the boys. My time in that world ended after I met someone special, but living that kind of life leaves some issues behind. My name is Nancy, and now I'm 35. I live as an ordinary housewife and work at a local supermarket. With my light makeup and quiet personality, no one would guess that I once wore bright makeup and rode motorcycles. Yes, I was in a gang and even led a group of girls. But then I met my husband Joshua and everything changed. It all began 10 years ago during a fight with another gang. They were always causing trouble whenever we met. One day, things got really intense. Joshua stepped in unexpectedly to help his brother, who was part of the other gang. As everyone was fighting and falling, Joshua and I were the only ones left standing. I even remember him laughing when he realized his brother wasn't even there. Despite the chaos, Joshua seemed really calm and composed. I couldn't help but notice. "Hey, you're pretty cool," I said to him. "Me? Really? Looking like this? You must have some strange tastes. Were you calling out for someone named Noah? Did you find him?" "No, it turns out my brother wasn't here." That's how our quiet chat began. Joshua's brother was a troublemaker beyond saving. Joshua even took up boxing to try and set him straight. He couldn't stand by and watch wrongdoing happen. He seemed like a guy full of fairness. As we talked more, we got closer. We started seeing each other more often, and it was clear we liked each other. But Joshua didn't like troublemakers back then. Even though we liked each other, my past in the gang held us back. Eventually, Joshua said he'd only be with me if I left the gang for good. Tired of all the pointless fights, I decided to leave the group. We started dating and got married 5 years later. The gang I used to be in got broken up by another group 2 years after I left. After marrying Joshua, I changed a lot and became a calm and graceful woman. But our peaceful life got shaken up by a certain neighbor, Joshua's sister Somia and her husband. One morning, as I was seeing Joshua off to work, the doorbell rang. Who could that be? I wondered. I'll check. Suddenly, Joshua looked surprised. Somia, he exclaimed, recognizing his sister, whom I had met once at a family dinner. Hey Joshua, we've moved in next door today. Please take care of us, she said. Hello, I'm Tommy, Somia's husband. Looking forward to getting along, he added. They started off with a rude attitude, But since Sonia was Joshua's sister, I couldn't be too confrontational. We usually got along with our in-laws, so I didn't want to start any trouble. It turns out Tony was the one who got Joshua's brother Noah into the troublemaking world. They went to the same high school and were a year younger than Joshua. Joshua turned 34 this year, so they must be 33. Sonia, who's 3 years younger than Joshua, should be 31. Joshua, too bad about your brother, huh? Tony remarked. I don't care about Noah anymore. Even you. Joshua was visibly angry. His brother had passed away due to a fight. Joshua's brother and sister apparently never got along well. Sonia felt ignored in favor of her brother and developed a rivalry, which eventually extended to Joshua as well. Joshua once mentioned how tough it was to deal with his sister, preferring to focus only on his brother. Unlike me, Sonia was also in a delinquent group before. Unlike her, Noah was forced into it by Tony. Seeing his siblings change, Joshua probably felt even more determined about justice. As the three of them stared each other down, I spoke up from behind Joshua. Joshua, you need to leave for work soon. All right, he replied. Running away, Joshua. Remember, I haven't forgotten that you laid hands on me, Sonia sneered. That was because you attacked Noah. All right, both of you enough. We're done here, Sonia declared. With Sonia's words, Joshua left for work, the issue still unresolved. But then the harassment from Sonia and her husband began. About an hour after Joshua left, the doorbell rang, but nobody was there when I checked. Another hour passed, and there was a loud noise at the door, like something was being thrown. When I looked, there was a pile of cardboard boxes dumped in front of our door. What's going on? I muttered to myself. Since nobody was around, I decided to ignore it and went back inside. But then I heard a small popping sound from the balcony. I rushed over and found 3 broken eggs. We live in a corner apartment next to Sonia's new place. This means the harassment likely came from her apartment since there are no neighbors on one side, and it's too high for someone from below. Angry, I decided to confront my next-door neighbors. Hey, is that you? What do you want, showing up like this? Sonia greeted me, clearly irritated. Is this your idea of a prank? Throwing eggs on our balcony? It had to be you or your husband. The angle only makes sense from your balcony. Sonia glared at me and said, What? Don't be ridiculous. Do you have any proof that we did it? Making false accusations won't help. I'll call the cops. Even though she used to be in a gang, her quick resort to the police in this situation seemed odd to me. I don't have proof, but the way the eggs are scattered, they could only come from your balcony. I tried to stay calm, but Sonia kept arguing back. That's weak proof. Hey Tony, the lady next door is complaining, she said to her husband. Hearing this, Tony chimed in. Hey, just because you're Joshua's wife doesn't mean you'll get any special treatment. If Sonia's reliance on the police seems second-rate, Tony's words weren't much better. He might have thought he was intimidating, but to me, it was anything but scary. I could feel my old self stirring inside me, but I didn't want to go back to my past. So I acted like a timid, unassuming woman and said quietly, Please don't raise your voice. Inside, I wanted to unleash a powerful kick to shut him up. But since meeting Joshua, I had changed for the better, and I didn't want to throw away all my progress over something like this. Seeing my reaction, they both laughed in front of me. Aha, so you're Joshua's wife. I thought you'd be something special, but you're just a boring woman. Weak. Tony was giving you too much credit. At the family dinner, you seemed like a real introvert. Just a kick won't be enough. I might have to dislocate a joint or two to calm myself down, I thought, trying to control my rising anger. Go on, leave, they told me, and then closed the door on me. I stood there, staring at the closed door, feeling frustrated. I thought about telling Joshua, but I knew Sonia and her husband would just pretend they didn't know anything. It would only lead to more trouble and stress for me, so I decided not to bother. The next day, and the day after that, the harassment from Sonia and her husband continued. It always started after Joshua left for work. Who left this garbage at our doorstep? It must be those two. I muttered as I was about to leave for work at the supermarket. The door got stuck halfway, blocked by a bag of garbage. I reluctantly took it to the disposal area and then headed to work. 5 hours later, I came home to something unbelievable. There was a cardboard box in front of the door, set up like a table. On either side of the box, there were lit candles, and in the middle, a vase with flowers. Above the door, there was a photo of me, taken who knows when, stuck there, mocking me as if I were dead. Furious, I was about to kick the cardboard away when Joshua called from behind. Nancy. Startled, I turned around to find Joshua, who had come home from work. You're an hour early. I got off work early today. What's all this? Joshua was also surprised at the sight in front of the door. We quickly cleaned up the cardboard and candles from the shared hallway and went inside. There, I told Joshua everything that had happened. So it's likely Somia and her husband, but we don't have any proof. Even if we confront them, they'll just deny it, I said. After a moment of thought, Joshua had an idea. Let's buy cameras, one for the balcony and one for the entrance, especially hidden well at the entrance. I agreed with Joshua's suggestion. There was only so much more we could take. We immediately purchased cameras online and had them delivered to Joshua's workplace to avoid suspicion. For now, we'll just have to endure until the cameras arrive. Then we can fight back with evidence. Got it, I replied, so I dealt with Sonia's mean behavior at her house for a few days. For many people, putting up with stuff like this means not fighting back because they're scared or not strong enough. But for me, it was different. I wanted to fight back, but I held myself back. If it was okay to use force, I would have already stood up to them. It was really frustrating having the power to do something but not being able to. After 3 days, Joshua brought home some cameras. Any more trouble? The usual. Today they even threw a fish head onto the balcony. Let's put up the cameras now. We'll hide one behind the air conditioner on our balcony, aiming at Sonia's, and another near the fire extinguisher by the entrance. The next day after setting up the cameras, Sonia started being mean again. As Joshua left for work, I watched everything through a recording app. And just like clockwork, Sonia and her friends started their antics. I watched quietly and left for work when it was time. 2 hours into my shift at the supermarket, Sonia came to my register. Well, if it isn't my sister-in-law, she said. I quietly scanned Sonia's items. It was obvious from her tone that she knew it was me, and she was being really rude. Aren't you cold for a cashier? Shouldn't you be nicer? Come on, give me a discount on this. Other customers in line looked worried as they watched us. A man in the line spoke up to Sonia. Hey, can't you see she's uncomfortable? Sonia turned to him, looking angry. Shut up, it's none of your business. The man seemed defeated by Sonia's reaction and backed away, leaving the line. Then, I spoke up to Sonia for the first time. Ma'am, if you keep acting this way, I'll have to call security. I said it calmly but firmly. Maybe because others were watching, Sonia replied. Oh, it was just a joke. So disappointing. She left the store, leaving her items behind. The other customers were surprised by what happened. I was really mad when I got home from work. There was a note on the door that said, useless cashier. That's enough. I couldn't handle it anymore. I angrily tore off the note and waited nervously for Joshua to come back. When he got home, we watched the footage from the cameras. It clearly showed Sonia and her husband doing bad things. Now we can fight back, Joshua said, looking angry. Okay, let's go. When we rang Sonia's doorbell, Tommy answered. You two again. What do you want now? Sonia came up behind him, asking lazily, What's up, Joshua? We're ready to fight back, I thought as I started to speak, but Joshua stopped me and stepped forward. Nancy, let me handle this. Sonia told me if you keep bothering us, there will be consequences. Joshua's voice was firm and threatening. Tony replied, What, you want to fight? You got proof we did anything? You're just making accusations. Before Tony could finish, Joshua played the video from the recording app. This video shows what you've been doing wrong. We put up cameras because your harassment was too much. This made Sonia and Tony quiet, which was unusual for them. Sonia looked a bit worried and turned to Tony, while Tony glared back at us with a deep frown. You caught us this time, I said seriously. But remember, the trouble started from your side. Tony replied, So you want to solve this with a fight, huh? Hold on, Joshua, I'm calling someone. Call whoever you want. We'll be ready, Joshua said firmly, not backing down as things got more intense. Tommy urgently talked into the phone. William, I need help now. His tone was different from before, now begging for help. After hanging up, he turned back to us. Get ready. Willie, the toughest guy around here, is coming. He looked smug. thinking he'd win with someone else's help, but it showed he was really a coward. "Why not face us yourself?" I asked. "Keep talking. I know your strength. This time, I brought someone special to make sure you both feel real fear," Tommy said, trying to scare us. 5 minutes later, William arrived, the guy Tommy had talked big about, but he looked surprised when he saw us. "William, hey, it's been a while." Sonia and Tommy seemed excited, expecting a lot from him, but that excitement quickly faded. "What's happening?" "Yeah, it's been a while, Will," I said, calling him Will, which left Sonia and Tommy puzzled. Joshua greeted him too. "Hey Will, long time no see." The couple looked even more confused. Confused, Tommy asked, "What's going on?" "How do you know William?" Tommy looked nervous, and William looked between us. I just said, "Will, let's not do this, okay?" Angry, Tommy snapped, "Stop messing around. Will, do something please." Sonia and Tony were panicking, not understanding what was happening. But then Will spoke up. "Hey, did you mess with Nancy?" His question left them shocked for a moment. "So what if we did?" Tommy answered, sounding unsure. Will exploded, "You idiots. Do you even know who you're dealing with?" His scolding left them stunned. They clearly had no clue. Seeing this, I turned to Joshua and asked, "Hey, can I go back to how I was 15 years ago, just for now?" But instead of Joshua, it was Will who replied, "Nancy, please don't. If you do something, it could get worse than just a fight." "What, are you giving me orders now, Will?" No, that's not what I meant," Will stuttered. Seeing the guy they called for help now apologizing to me, Sonia and Tony were confused. "What's going on here?" They looked scared as Will talked. "Do you two know about BBN?" "Yeah, that's right. It's famous. It stands for Black Butterfly Nancy, right? The nickname of the former leader of a ladies' group." "That's correct, and this lady here is Nancy herself." "No way, really?" Both of them lost their tough act instantly. Will continued, "Back then, I led another group, but we got beat by Nancy's group. She could handle 30 people alone." Sonia and Tommy now looked at me with fear. It made sense. They thought they were picking on someone weaker, only to find out she was the leader of a group they used to be a part of. "I didn't know Nancy was practically a legend. We joined the group 6 months after you left," Sonia said. "They joined after I left. Will had been in the group with me and stayed even after I left, looking after Sonia and Tommy. He left just before a rival group took us down. By then, Tony was the leader. Before you ruined it, the group was unbeatable. You can't mess with Nancy," Will said. "The group that took us down is now the strongest. But if Nancy was still around, she'd still be the strongest." Seeing Sonia and Tony crumble, Will turned to me and said, "Please forgive them for my sake." Watching Will apologize, Sonia and Tony seemed defeated. They never expected their call for help to go so wrong. "Fine, but you owe us," I said, glaring at them. They let out a small gasp. "For a month, you'll clean this apartment and our balcony since you made a mess. If you miss even one day, I won't be so nice next time." "Okay," Sonia agreed, clearly intimidated. Tommy just nodded vigorously, unable to speak. Watching them, Will remarked, "Nobody can really challenge Nancy." Hearing this, Joshua, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke up. "But I don't like troublemakers. If Nancy hadn't changed, I wouldn't be here." He said it softly, and I looked up at him. "Don't worry, I won't let that side of me out again." At this, Will burst into laughter, and we all ended up laughing together. Will and Joshua knew each other because we met after I left the group. We ran into Will while on a date and ended up having tea together. "Now that's settled. Why don't you join us for dinner, Will?" The three of us left Sonia and Tommy slumped by the entrance and went to our apartment. Before going inside, Joshua added, "Sonia, you're my sister, so I'll let it go this time. But there won't be a next time." Watching him, I wondered if he too had that same fighting spirit as us. From that day on, Sonia and her husband stopped bothering us. They kept their promise and cleaned our balcony and the shared areas of the apartment. Even though they were just troublemakers doing chores, other residents stopped paying them much attention after a while. After a month, Sonia and her husband left without a word. Even Joshua, their family, didn't know where they went. Maybe they felt uncomfortable staying there. We didn't bother looking for them further and thought they made a wise decision. Finally, we had our peaceful life back. Neighborhood problems are common, but I never thought I'd be so involved. At least it ended well. I have a past I'd rather not talk about. Joshua has kept it secret all this time. I'm not ashamed of everything in my past, but I've learned from my mistakes. I just want to cherish my life with Joshua now, and I hope to never show my true self to anyone again. That's all I'm thinking about now. Making only $750 a month is like a college student's allowance. Even students working at bars earn more. Having a low-income wife is embarrassing. Maybe you should get a divorce so our son can find a better wife. After all, he's a great catch. My mother-in-law keeps making these rude comments after seeing a pay stub, but it's not even mine. My name is Amanda, and I'm a 32-year-old nurse. I've been married to John for 5 years. We met in college, started dating, and eventually got married. We first met at a party when he was a medical student and I was studying to be a nurse. John hasn't passed the medical licensing exam. He failed twice and took 3 years off. Now he's working part-time and studying hard for the exam. I'm working full-time as a nurse, so I make most of the money for us. John isn't into bragging about money or posting pictures of fancy cars on social media. He's serious about his work, reading stories about people who've lost loved ones to illness, keeping up with the number of people affected by infectious diseases, and studying Japan's healthcare system. I respect him even though he's not a doctor yet. He genuinely wants to help people, so I didn't leave him despite his lack of income and being in his 30s. He hasn't told his parents that he isn't a doctor yet. Sorry, my mom is too nosy, he says. It's okay. I support you, so you don't have to worry about your parents. Live your life the way you want. This is just temporary. That's why his situation remained a secret. No one knew because he worked as a night security guard at the hospital where I worked. This way, he was technically employed there. He had enough knowledge and information from my stories to sound like a doctor. So when his parents, who rarely saw us, asked about him, I said yes, patients really like him. I believe that while cruel lies can hurt people, kind lies can sometimes save them. Telling a patient you have 3 months left and there's no chance of recovery is like starting a countdown. It's better to say, you look good today and you ate a lot. That's how people are. On the other hand, my mother-in-law is very different from my serious and honest husband. She has a harsh personality and is a typical overbearing mother-in-law. She looks down on me for being just a nurse married to her son, the doctor. There must have been so many better options, like a beautiful dermatologist. I always apologize and bow my head when she says things like that. I wholeheartedly support my husband in his pursuit of becoming a doctor, but right now, he's just a high school graduate with a lot of medical knowledge working part-time. He's not even a medical intern yet. However, my husband is genuinely grateful, often saying, "Thank you for everything always." So I silently support him. I'm also very busy with my work. Our combined income is barely enough to make ends meet, but it couldn't be helped. I didn't care much about money because I admired Florence Nightingale and wanted to help people. Currently, I'm a nurse in internal medicine, which has the heaviest workload. Wanting more money doesn't even cross my mind. As long as we can live, eat, and stay healthy, that's enough. Isn't that what life is really about? Even though I'm the one supporting my husband's living expenses and tuition, my mother-in-law tells everyone in the neighborhood, my son is a doctor and earns well. If he were a serious doctor, he wouldn't want his mother bragging about his income, whether good or bad. But my mother-in-law doesn't care and only talks about money, money, money. As her son, he has no choice but to silently endure it. She doesn't know that he's actually working as a security guard in uniform at the hospital instead of walking around in a white coat as she brags about. Even if he were walking around in a white coat, it's not something to boast and gossip about. I understand her pride, but she should hold back. I was worried that my husband's mental state might suffer and he might fail the medical licensing exam because he's barely hanging on. If he ends up spending his entire life as a security guard after trying so hard, it would be heartbreaking. His personality is perfect for being a doctor. His only weakness is his kindness. That's why my mother-in-law makes up stories and says things like, "My son makes $373,000 a year." For him, knowing that's false just adds more pressure. I once gently expressed my concern to her. I think it would be better for the patients if he didn't talk so much about his job because it might cause problems. After all, if you think about it from the opposite perspective, would you want to go to a doctor whose mother is constantly boasting about him when you're sick? But my mother-in-law doesn't care. Be quiet, you're just a nurse. You should feel lucky to marry a doctor. It's like winning a $3 million lottery. Money can't buy respect. You're just a nursing school graduate. She says mean things. I'm sorry. Thank you for letting me marry John. I respect him as a doctor and as a person, so please leave him alone. You're so annoying. We can make him divorce you and marry someone else. It would be sad if our future grandchild gets your low IQ. She's being really mean. But I stayed quiet. Compared to saving lives or feeling like I'm doing important work, my mother-in-law's mean words didn't bother me much. I didn't take her seriously, but one day she showed up at our house uninvited. Our house is a 30-minute train ride from theirs, so we don't see them often. I'm busy with work, so I'm not around them much. That's why she didn't know the truth until now. Wow, this house is small. Why does my son, who I'm so proud of, have to live in such a poor-looking place? She said loudly. She looked at the row of medical books and said, well, he is my son, and took a picture with her phone. But most of the books were for the national medical exam, so I felt nervous. Since this year's books were there, it might show he's still studying. I tried to stay calm, but my heart was racing. Mother-in-law, I'm sorry. We're both busy with work, so we haven't had time to find a bigger place, especially recently. I hinted for her to leave. But then she started looking around our house. What's with these strange dishes? If you're a doctor, you should buy fancy ones. Yes, I'm sorry. They're from a cheap store. What? Cheap store? I'm getting rid of them. No, we didn't have much money because we were spending it on my husband's textbooks and tuition. So we saved money on things like plates that didn't affect our basic meals. As long as we could eat off them, it was okay. Right now, passing his exams was the most important thing. At that time, my husband happened to be working as a security guard at the hospital. It was a good thing he wasn't home. I didn't want him to get upset, so I wanted to get my mother-in-law to leave while he was at work. But she kept going through our stuff. I'm going to get rid of these clothes that look like something a student would wear. If you're a doctor, you should wear expensive clothes. She threw away my husband's favorite clothes. And what's this? A cheap watch? If you're a doctor, get a fancy one, she said, tossing it aside, not realizing the usefulness of a smartwatch. Each thing she threw away was bought with the little money my husband earned. He would have rather been in the operating room treating patients than standing outside feeling humiliated. But he kept working hard for his dreams and the sweat he put into it. But she didn't stop. It's because he married a poor girl that you're living like this, even though he's a doctor. It's unbelievable. I thought we could go shopping together and maybe you could buy me a bag or something. Her words were really mean. I had to tell her that what she expected from my husband, whether he's a student or not, was different from how we lived. I was a doctor too. I wasn't just after his money. Mother-in-law, he's not that extravagant. We like our life the way it is, I said calmly. But she wouldn't listen. You're so frustrating. Do you know how hard he worked to get into medical school? My mother-in-law yelled, getting angrier. She kept searching my house, not stopping at the kitchen but going through every closet, throwing away anything she thought was cheap. Then she started looking through our bills and paperwork. That's when she found the pay stubs. They showed $750.25. Even though my husband's name was on them, she either didn't notice or couldn't read it. She shouted, $750. What do you mean $750? That's not my son's daily wage. Even anesthesiologists make $750 a day, and you're the wife of a doctor making only $750? Are you not working hard enough, or what? She started to lose control. That's why you're so poor. You're just using my son for money. You're barely working as a nurse and tricking a doctor. You're only doing part-time nursing because it sounds good. $750 is nothing, so quit already. That money was earned by him when other doctors passed him by, working hard between his study hours for a very low daily wage. It meant a lot to us. But my mother-in-law wouldn't stop being crazy, and then the worst happened. You're a poor wife who brings bad luck. Divorce her quickly. Just then, my husband came home from his part-time job. He looked shocked to see his clothes and wash thrown away. He started picking them up silently. But my mother-in-law said, "John, I don't want to be mean, but please divorce her. Why did you, with your high education and income, choose such a pathetic woman? I'm so sad, and she only earned $750. But my husband didn't say anything. I couldn't tell what he was thinking. My mother-in-law laughed and said, "I'll bring you the divorce papers. Leave this dusty room and this woman who smells like disinfectant and find a better wife. You're a doctor. You should remarry." Then my husband stood up slowly and said, "Mom, I haven't told you this, but I'm not a doctor yet." "What?" "I'm sorry for not telling you earlier, but I haven't passed the national exam yet. And about that $750. My mother-in-law was so shocked that she looked at me for help. "I don't get it. This $750 paycheck is yours, isn't it?" I realized there was no point in hiding it anymore, so I said, "No, it's not mine." My husband added, "That's my salary from my part-time job." "That can't be. You're lying, aren't you?" "I'm not lying. It's true. I'm not a doctor yet. I failed the national exam twice." My mother-in-law was shocked to hear that her son wasn't a doctor yet. She started acting strangely and slipped on some newspapers she had scattered earlier while going through our house. She fell to the floor and cried out for help. Thankfully, she managed to avoid hitting her head, but her right arm, which she used the most, broke with a loud snap. It was definitely fractured. My husband and I quickly helped her and took her to the hospital, where we brought her to the orthopedic department. But my husband said, "Mom, I'm sorry, but please don't come to our house anymore. And I don't want you to consider me your son anymore." My mother-in-law was trembling from shock, but my husband continued, "I knew you were proud of me, that I couldn't keep lying. But when you insulted the money I worked hard for, that was too much. But I never thought you weren't a doctor. It doesn't matter if I'm a doctor or not. Do you think I'm studying just to earn $750 a day? I'm an adult, and it seems like we have different values, so let's end our relationship." It seemed like my husband had truly decided to cut ties with his mother. She, who had found purpose in boasting about her son, seemed completely heartbroken. Nowadays, she stays at home, too embarrassed to face her neighbors. That same year, my husband passed the medical licensing exam. Despite being a bit older, he started working as a resident physician and did exceptionally well, always showing kindness, like offering tea to the security guards. Our days became peaceful and happy. If my mother-in-law had just waited a few more months, her dream would have come true, and she could have seen him in his white coat. It's really a pity, but she brought it upon herself. My dad suddenly got very sick and had to go to the hospital. I can't go on our honeymoon because I need to be with him. So my husband says I should go alone. I was really excited about our honeymoon, but now it's not happening. My husband thinks I should still go by myself. But who goes on a honeymoon alone? Then something unexpected happened. My father-in-law, who was supposed to be in the hospital, appeared in front of me. "Why are you here, father-in-law?" "My name is Sarah. I've been with Mark for 5 years, and he finally asked me to marry him this summer." Looking back, those 5 years felt like a long time. We started visiting Mark's parents' house about a year into our relationship, and he met my parents who live far away too. But he always said, "Let's wait until work is more settled," without making a definite plan to get married. Lately he even joked, "Why change anything?" This made me worried. "Mark, I'm turning 30 soon. If you're not going to be honest with me, we might need to end things." After I said that, Mark finally asked me to marry him. We were close to each other's families and had already talked about everything, from our wedding plans to our honeymoon destination. All that was left was to make those plans happen. We decided to have a small wedding with just our closest friends and family. The only thing left was our honeymoon. Mark planned to spend the day at his parents' house to spend time with them. I had dinner with my parents, who came from out of town, and then went home alone. I packed our bags for the honeymoon and sent Mark a text before bed. "Mark, you did great today. I'm all set for our honeymoon tomorrow. I'm really excited about going to Italy." But I didn't hear back from Mark. I figured he must have been really tired from the wedding and fell asleep. I hoped he wouldn't oversleep for our flight the next day. Feeling a bit worried, I eventually fell asleep. The next morning, I got a call from Mark. "Sarah, something really bad happened," Mark said quickly as soon as I answered the phone. "My dad collapsed and he's in the hospital. You'll have to go on our honeymoon alone today. What? What do you mean? I was shocked. But your dad seemed fine at our wedding yesterday, didn't he? I'm just as surprised as you, Sarah. I need to stay with him, but you should still go on the honeymoon without me. That's crazy. If your dad's sick, I can't just leave for our honeymoon. Who goes on a honeymoon alone anyway? I asked which hospital his dad was in, but Mark wouldn't tell me. If I told you, you want to come visit, right? Of course I would. Dad knows how much you've been looking forward to going to Italy. He insisted I should still let you go. Please respect his wishes. I won't be able to enjoy myself with everything that's happening. Will you come join me once he's feeling better? Definitely, I'll be there as soon as things calm down here. Don't say as soon as things are settled, it might jinx it. Please, let me handle things here and go to Italy as planned. I'm almost at the hospital, so I won't be able to answer your calls. Talk to you later. Well, wait, Mark. I tried to say, but he hung up before I could get a word in. I called back right away, but his phone was off. I didn't even know which hospital he was heading to, so I couldn't rush to be with my father-in-law. Feeling helpless, the doorbell rang, startling me. When I opened the door, I was shocked. Father-in-law? There he was, standing at the door, supposed to be in a hospital after collapsing. Are you okay? Your legs? They're working. I stammered, feeling like I was seeing a ghost. What do you mean? My father-in-law looked confused as I checked if he was really there. Are you feeling all right? Oh, I had a bit too much to drink at the wedding yesterday, but I'm fine now. Sober as a judge this morning, and I drove here just fine after dropping Mark off. After dropping Mark off? Yeah, you're going on your honeymoon, right? I dropped him off at the station, but then I realized I should have come to pick you up too. Let me take you to LaGuardia. I was really confused. My father-in-law, who was supposed to be in the hospital, dropped Mark off at the station. None of this made any sense. Then it hit me. My father-in-law mentioned LaGuardia, but we're supposed to fly from JFK to Italy, not LaGuardia Airport. You said you'd take me to LaGuardia, but our honeymoon is in Italy. Oh yes, that's what I thought too. I was surprised when Mark told me this morning that we changed our plans last minute and decided to go to Alaska instead. Alaska. The more I heard, the more confused I became. Mark said we're going to Alaska. Yeah, he did. He left a note in the car. My father-in-law showed me a post-it that Mark had left in the car. It had the name of an inn in Alaska and a flight from LaGuardia to Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport written on it. When I saw it, everything started to make sense. Can you take me to LaGuardia then? Of course. Traffic shouldn't be too bad. We'll probably get there around the same time as Mark's train. Thank you so much. On the way, I couldn't stop thinking about Mark's behavior. Whether my guess was right or not, I find out when I saw him at the airport. I thanked my father-in-law and went into the airport. Near the check-in counter for the Alaska flight, I saw Mark right away. He was with another woman, cozying up together and picking out drinks. My suspicions were confirmed. He had been cheating on me. Maybe it started while we were living together. His reluctance to get married might have been because of her. And now, not only was he having an affair, but he was also going on a trip with her on the day of our honeymoon. I stood boldly in front of him. Mark, holding drinks and about to leave the store, saw me and looked shocked. Sarah, what are you doing here? Same question to you. Why are you, who should have been at the hospital with your dad, here? I just came to buy some stuff. Stuff? Did you really come all the way to LaGuardia just to buy drinks? Yeah, Dad wanted some specific airport water. That's funny you say that because I was just with your father. Huh? Your dad came to pick me up in his car. He seemed perfectly fine, which was a big surprise. Oh right, after we talked, he suddenly felt better. He's always been resilient. Mark was sticking to his story. Amidst my shock, I couldn't help but think, what excuse will he come up with next? So who's this woman? Where were you two planning to go? Well, oh right, she's the nurse who looked after Dad. We're going to check out a rehab center for him in Alaska. Your excuses are painful to hear. I was speechless and sighed in disbelief. Enough. Your lies are giving me a headache. It's not a lie, she's really my dad's. Mark's words were interrupted by a voice from behind. My what? I turned around and saw my father-in-law standing there. I thought you went home, I said. I had a feeling something wasn't right, Sarah, so I parked the car and followed you. Looks like I was right. Seeing his dad there, Mark knew his lies weren't going to work. He looked nervous. My father-in-law asked sternly, "Who is this woman?" Well. Before Mark could say anything, the woman spoke up. "I'm Amy, Mark's girlfriend." Mark quickly covered her mouth. "What are you saying?" "You need to be honest, Mark. You don't love your wife. Just divorce her already," she said boldly. "What?" "No, just be quiet," Mark exclaimed. "Why should I listen to you? You promised to leave your wife for me. That's why you chose me over her today, right?" Amy accused. "That's because you threatened me. You said, 'If you don't come to Alaska with me today, I'll tell everyone about us.'" Mark defended himself. "I see, so you were having an affair with her?" I said coldly. Amy glared at me and snapped back, "It's not an affair. Mark and I are serious about each other. He never wanted to marry you." At that point, I didn't even want to argue anymore. "Fine, do whatever you want." Leaving Mark and Amy behind, my father-in-law and I left the airport. It was 5 days later when Mark came back home. The doorbell rang, and I talked to him through the intercom. "Sarah, can you open the door?" "I can't unlock it." "Oh, I changed the locks." "You changed them? Why would you do that without telling me?" "I don't want someone I don't know having a spare key to our home." "Someone I don't know? Are you talking about me?" "Who else would I be talking about? I've got the divorce papers ready, so just sign them." "Wait, let me in first. We can talk about this." I kept the door chain on and passed the divorce papers through the crack. "There's nothing to talk about. Once you sign these papers, can you leave right away?" "Don't be so angry. I've decided to end things with Amy." "Huh? What do you mean?" "She's awful. I only agreed to go to Alaska because she threatened to tell everyone about us. But the trip was terrible. She complained the whole time about the inn and the weather. I told her I won't divorce you. Please break up with me." I don't care if you break up with that girl or not. The only option for me is a divorce, even if you don't agree." "Don't say that. Are you mad because we didn't go to Italy?" "It's too late now, but do you want to go?" "Are you serious? How can you even suggest that?" "I was wrong to think I could reason with you. A man who cancels our honeymoon to go on a trip with his mistress isn't reasonable. Sign the divorce papers now and also sign this." I handed him another document through the crack. "What's this?" he asked. "It's a payment agreement for alimony and the cancellation fee for our honeymoon. I had a lawyer prepare it while you were away. I'm saying I don't want a divorce. You're the one who wants it, so why do I have to pay alimony? I want to try again. You can't ignore the consequences of cheating. Infidelity means alimony, and the decision to start over isn't yours, considering you cheated." "What about this cancellation fee?" "We don't get a refund for canceling our trip last minute. Since you caused it, you should pay." "I told you to go alone. Not going was your choice." "How could I go alone on our honeymoon? And you lied about your dad being sick to cover up your affair." "I couldn't go in that situation. I wanted to go to Italy with you, but Amy threatened me. You wouldn't want me to lose my job, would you? Amy threatened to expose you at work." "Yeah, exactly. If she says she'll do something, she'll do it. It's all Amy's fault." Amy did give off a vibe of unpredictability. I mean, she even boldly declared herself as Mark's girlfriend directly to his wife. She must be quite bold. But strangely, I felt relieved. With someone like Amy in the picture, Mark's actions would eventually catch up with him, even without my interference. All I needed now was to get him to sign those divorce papers. Pretending to be concerned, I asked, "Hey, are you sure it's safe for you to be here?" "What do you mean? You ended things with Amy, right? Isn't she angry?" "Of course she's angry, but I'm done with her." "Well, maybe you're fine, but what about Amy? Knowing her, she might show up at your office and cause trouble." "True, that would be a disaster. I need to go to the office and handle this. Sarah, could you pass me my company key card?" "This one." I pulled out Mark's company key card and showed it to him. "Yeah, that's it." I quickly moved away from the door as Mark reached for the card through the gap. "I'll give you the key card if you sign the divorce papers and the payment agreement first." "But, have you made up your mind? You better decide quickly. Amy might get to your office before you." "All right." Mark reluctantly signed the documents and passed them through the door gap. "There, is that enough? Now give me the key card." I handed him the key card, and Mark hurried off to the office. I went to the courthouse to submit the divorce papers and gave the signed payment agreement to my lawyer. It was a relief to have the financial matters settled. The next day, Mark called me in a panic. "Hello? Sarah. What do you want? We're legally strangers now. There's nothing to talk about." "Wait, please don't hang up," Mark pleaded desperately. Curious about what happened, I decided to hear him out. "So what is it?" "I was called into a meeting by the board when I got to the office today. Everyone knows about my affair, even though I tried to get ahead of Amy. Isn't that strange?" "Oh," I told them. "You told the board?" "Yeah, I felt bad because they came to our wedding. But we divorced so quickly. Since you were busy with Amy, I thought I should explain why we split up." "Just the board? You told everyone at my office?" "Yeah. When I told them my husband chose a vacation with someone else over our honeymoon, they were shocked." "But how can I face everyone at work now?" "You don't have to hide anymore. Isn't that a good thing? Don't play games with me. You've ruined everything." "I should be saying that to you. I wish I could get back the 5 years I wasted on someone like you." When I spoke up, he fell silent. "Why don't you just be with Amy? If she cares about you so much, wouldn't she support you even if you quit your job?" "No, being with her only brings trouble. The only one who can support me is you, Sarah." "Well, being with you only brings me trouble. If you want support, maybe you should think about how your actions affect others." "Yeah, I regret it. So can we try again?" "No chance. Maybe it's time for you to reflect, start fresh, and try dating again. Oh, and maybe find a job first." "Sarah, please don't leave me. You're the one who betrayed me first. You'll have to live with your regret." I ended the call abruptly. After that, Mark went back to his parents' house a few times to borrow money. But my father-in-law, who was falsely made out to be seriously ill and used as an excuse for Mark's affair, was furious. Eventually, he cut ties with Mark. Mark started feeling uncomfortable at work and ended up quitting. Job hunting didn't go well, and now he's barely making ends meet by working part-time at a convenience store. On the other hand, I moved into a new home with the alimony from Mark. Even though I changed the locks, it still felt strange living in a place my ex-husband knew about. Mark's parents helped me move. Maybe they saw it as a way to make up for their son's mistakes. I still keep in touch with them and have meals together occasionally. I may not get back the 5 years I spent with Mark, but I'm determined to find someone better next time. You're useless. You can't even handle the chores or take care of the kids, let alone pay the AL money. Kyle finally showed up at the hospital 3 weeks after my car accident, saying these mean things without caring about me lying there in the hospital bed. At first, I hoped Kyle came because he cared about me, but I was disappointed. I sighed deeply. Honestly, I had already been thinking about getting a divorce. I didn't expect Kyle to bring it up now, but I guess it's a good thing. It saved us both some trouble. Fine, I agreed quickly, which surprised Kyle. He didn't know I was already ahead of him. I wanted to tell him I knew what he was planning and was secretly laughing at him in my head. My name is Sarah. I'm a 40-year-old housewife living with my husband Kyle and our 7-year-old daughter Lisa. Kyle and I met during a group blind date and got married when I was 30. He was easy to talk to, and eventually I fell for him, and we started dating. Kyle was charming, the most handsome man at the table when we first met. When he showed interest in me, I felt flattered and proud. Kyle was incredibly romantic in our early days. He would surprise me with desserts and flowers at fancy restaurants for my birthdays, take me on trips for our anniversaries, and write heartfelt letters at just the right moments. I felt so lucky to have him and eagerly accepted his marriage proposal, imagining a life full of surprises and excitement even after marriage. But once we were married, things changed. "Hey Sarah, my dinner isn't ready yet. I've been working all day, and you can't even have dinner prepared when I get back. You're so lazy." After we got married, Kyle started acting like he was the boss of the house and I was his servant. At first, I was shocked by how different he was. I thought he was just joking when we were dating. We used to laugh at each other's silly jokes. We imagined a sweet life where we'd call each other cute nicknames and stay lovey-dovey even after having kids. But he wasn't joking. He really treated me like a servant. At first, I laughed it off, thinking he was kidding. But then I realized he was serious. He actually saw me as his caretaker, and that scared me. After we got married, I had to quit my job, and we depended on the money Kyle earned. I was afraid that if I didn't do what he said, he might cut me off financially, so I felt trapped. Honestly, Kyle's income wasn't great. I made more money when I was working. Kyle only finished high school and kept changing jobs. He never stayed at a job for more than a year or two. It seemed like Kyle felt insecure about his background and took out his frustrations on me. "I'm sorry I got delayed with some errands," I told him once. "Don't make excuses, just hurry up and make it," Kyle replied, sitting down with a cold beer. This became a common scene, but each time I sighed and started cooking. My marriage made me miserable, but I managed to get by. The following year, our daughter Lisa was born, and my days became even more difficult. As expected, Kyle didn't help much with Lisa. However, he would spoil her by buying her any candy or toy she wanted. I tried to raise Lisa properly, so I scolded her when needed, which made her cling to Kyle even more. "Lisa, you like Daddy, don't you?" Kyle asked her once. "Yeah, Daddy is cool." "I love Daddy," Lisa replied. "I knew it. I'm super dad," Kyle said, looking at me smugly. It was frustrating, but I couldn't help feeling glad that Lisa loved her father. I just sighed again. Despite spoiling her, Kyle never attended any of Lisa's kindergarten events like sports festivals or recitals. There's a parent-child race at Lisa's sports festival. Could you participate?" I asked him. "Huh? Why me?" "You're free that day, you do it," he responded. "But the sports festival could be a great time for us to bond as parents. It's on a holiday, so you won't have to work," I said to Kyle. "Shut up. We're already close enough. Maybe you should work on your relationship with Lisa. She thinks you're mean, you know. You might want to fix that," Kyle said, laughing as he left for work. He called himself a super dad, yet he never showed up to school events. I worried that Kyle's habit of being easy on himself but hard on others might influence Lisa. He continued to leave all the housework and childcare to me and was lazy at home. Now Lisa is 5 years old and ready to start elementary school, but Kyle was still jumping from job to job. He had just quit his factory job last month and moved to a food and beverage company. "I'll be working weekends at my new job since it's in the food industry," he said. "Looks like we'll hardly see each other then," I replied. "Can't be helped. It's work," he said. Honestly, I was relieved because I was tired of Kyle ordering me around on weekends. Now I wouldn't have to be nagged by him to clean the floor or serve meals quickly. But if Kyle was out on weekends, Lisa would be sad. It's better for kids to spend holidays with the whole family. "I have work, so please let Lisa know," Kyle said. I couldn't really argue with Kyle since he was the one bringing in the money. Reluctantly, I went to tell Lisa. "I'm sorry, but Daddy won't be able to go out with you on his day off," I said, frowning, thinking she would be upset. However, contrary to my expectations, Lisa seemed unconcerned. "It's okay. If you're okay with it, then it's fine. He's not going to be here on all weekends, right?" "Daddy has been smelling strange lately," she said. "A strange smell?" I asked, puzzled. Lisa nodded and went back to her room. What on earth was she talking about? I've been so busy with housework and taking care of our child that I hadn't noticed much about Kyle lately. Our marriage was not like it used to be, and I tried to avoid being around Kyle to keep things calm. The strange smell Lisa mentioned might be from the factory, I thought. Factories often use special solvents, so it made sense that Kyle could come home with a weird smell. If that was the case, the smell would probably go away soon. Kids are really honest, which is what makes them so endearing. Despite what he said, Kyle started leaving the house early in the morning even on his days off, which was odd. He also left every weekday. If he was working weekends, he should have a day off during the week. He left without saying anything to me, so I couldn't tell if he was going to work or not. I became curious about what he was doing, leaving so early even on his days off. One day, I asked Kyle, "You seem to be going out every day off. What are you doing?" Kyle looked confused for a moment, then answered in an annoyed tone while scratching his head. "I'm working. I go to work voluntarily." "Really? But you should take care of yourself, or your body won't hold up," I replied. "Shut up. Don't complain about my job," Kyle snapped back. I didn't understand why he got so angry when he often complained about my housework and child rearing. I didn't believe what Kyle said. There's no way he, who usually avoids trouble, would go to work voluntarily on his days off. I knew this from watching him closely over the years. If he was that passionate about work, he would have stayed at his previous job longer. I'd also started paying attention to the strange smell that Lisa mentioned. Indeed, Kyle came home with a sweet, strong fragrance. This strange smell was not from the factory. Why hadn't I noticed this before? I blamed myself for being so naive and vowed not to make the same mistake again. From then on, I decided to watch Kyle more carefully, especially on weekdays when he said he was going to work. He seemed to wake up an hour earlier than usual and took extra care grooming himself. He appeared to be in a good mood on those days, which varied from week to week, sometimes on a Monday, sometimes on a Thursday. But it was clear that Kyle was happy on those days when he left the house. I went into his room to look for any clues. I felt like a detective searching a house. Since I always cleaned Kyle's room, I knew it well and didn't feel bad about snooping around. If Kyle had hidden anything, it would be in a place not easily seen. I searched carefully under the desk and bed. Finally, hidden in a candy tin in the closet, I found a bunch of letters. What were these? All the letters were from the same person named Patricia. They had been sent through the mail, the oldest letter from 4 months ago and the newest from yesterday. As I read the letters, I saw phrases like, "I regretted when we broke up, but now I really love you, and I want to go back to the time when I was with you." It sounded like something a lovesick teenager would say. At first, I thought maybe Kyle's ex-girlfriend was sending these letters on her own. But then I read a line that worried me. "I'm glad you like me again. I'm looking forward to our next date." This was from last week. It looked like Kyle was seeing this Patricia. Today he was definitely up to something. I took photos of the letters with my smartphone as evidence. I thought about taking the letters but didn't want to make Kyle suspicious. Even with these letters, I felt I didn't have enough proof. After thinking it over, I decided to hire a private investigator to check on Kyle. 3 weeks later, the investigator gave me the results. He brought photos of Kyle and Patricia close together in the park at night, and even a recording of them saying, "I love you," to each other. I accepted the facts calmly. With solid proof in hand, I went to the municipal office and came back with a divorce form. Now that I knew Kyle was cheating, I had no reason to stay with him. I planned to confront him with the divorce papers the next time something happened. I returned home and let out a deep sigh. I was acting resolved, but honestly, I was heartbroken. I was upset with myself for having married someone as careless as Kyle. I was thinking about resting a bit before making dinner when my phone rang. "Hello?" "Yes, Sarah. Do you have time to talk?" "Yes. What's going on?" I was surprised to get a call from my father. He usually doesn't call me. "Actually, your mother and I were talking yesterday and we're thinking about transferring our assets to you soon." "Huh? What happened?" My father ran a company that sold imported goods to Japanese corporations. I was the daughter of a big company president, but I never told Kyle about this. I thought it would make me sound boastful, especially since Kyle jumped from one job to another. We're getting old and thinking about retiring. We thought about keeping the company going but didn't want to push it on to you, our only daughter, so we decided to step back. I see. I felt guilty about not taking over the company, but my parents respected my decision and had planned for the future. I was touched by their thoughtfulness. We're thinking of handing over our assets to you. Our total wealth is $17 million, but we're fine with just $3 million. We've decided to give you the remaining $15 million. What? $15 million? I was shocked. That was more money than I could ever imagine earning in my lifetime. Yes, there will probably be inheritance tax, but you'll still have plenty left. You won't have to worry about living expenses for the rest of your life, Dad said. Thank you. I expressed my deepest gratitude to my father and mother and hung up. Soon $15 million would be coming my way. With that money, I wouldn't have any worries, even if I divorced Kyle. No offense to him, but he probably couldn't earn that much. I felt relieved and was in a daze for a while. I glanced at the clock. It was 6:00 p.m. I realized I needed to make dinner and checked the fridge, but there were no groceries left. I got ready to go shopping at the supermarket. My heart was light, but I also felt a sense of urgency that Kyle might come home soon. As I was hurrying across the last crosswalk to the supermarket, the light turned green. "Watch out," someone yelled, but it was too late. My body was already in the air, and then I hit the ground hard. The sharp pain shot through my head, and without understanding what had happened, I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was lying on a hospital bed. The first thing I saw when I opened my eyes were my parents and Lisa. "Sarah, thank goodness," Mom said. Lisa was crying next to me. I gently stroked her head. "You were hit by a car and broke both legs. They say it will take 5 months to fully recover." 5 months? I felt dizzy thinking about being out of action for so long. From that day on, I was stuck in a wheelchair. Although the nurses took care of me, I felt frustrated and annoyed because I couldn't use my legs. During my stay in the hospital, my parents and friends visited me. My parents were taking care of Lisa now since Kyle was always at work. I thought that was better for her. I was glad everyone visited, but Kyle never came. I started to doubt his care, thinking, aren't we husband and wife? However, 1 week after I was hospitalized, Kyle finally showed up. "Hey, feeling good?" Kyle asked sarcastically. "Yes, man, it's a mess at home without me," I replied lightly. Kyle always complained about my housework as soon as he spoke, showing no empathy. I sighed, thinking he would be at least a little worried about me. "What can I do?" "I was in a car accident," I snapped back. Kyle looked at me with disdain and said, "You're useless if you can't do housework or take care of the child. That's the worst, and you should pay alimony." He said such horrible things to his hospitalized wife. Initially, I had hoped Kyle came to visit out of concern, but he was still disappointing. I sighed deeply. Honestly, I had been thinking about getting a divorce myself. I hadn't expected Kyle to bring it up today, but it saved me the trouble of arguing. "Sure," I said, and Kyle looked surprised when I agreed. "Unfortunately, I know what you're up to," I wanted to say, laughing inside. "Here's a divorce notice." I took out a filled-in divorce form from a bag my mother had brought and held it in front of Kyle's face. "You already had this." Kyle was briefly confused, his eyes wide, but then he took the divorce notice from me and filled in his name and address right there. I felt relieved, knowing I wouldn't have to see Kyle's face ever again. I wanted to tell him the feeling was mutual, but I just watched him leave silently. Probably Kyle would remarry Patricia after the divorce. I didn't know what kind of woman Patricia was, but it was sad to think she was going to marry someone as controlling and unpleasant as Kyle. I felt a bit guilty about Lisa, but deciding to leave was something I had thought about for a long time. I promised myself I would take good care of Lisa. A month after Kyle left, my life was peaceful. The time without my husband nagging me felt like heaven. I was released from the hospital and started physical therapy. I decided to stay at my parents' house until my leg healed. My parents were angry at Kyle when they learned about the divorce, but they stopped pressing the issue when I told them I wanted to forget about him. Lisa didn't seem lonely even without her father around and was happily going to elementary school. In the end, Lisa also noticed Kyle's domineering behavior and probably didn't see him as a father anymore. I was convinced that divorcing Kyle was the right decision, but one afternoon, I got a call on my mobile phone. I ignored it when I saw Kyle's name, but the phone kept ringing nonstop. Eventually, I answered the call. "Hey Sarah, when are you coming back?" Kyle's words made no sense to me, and he sounded like he was about to start yelling. "What do you mean, coming back? You married Patricia, didn't you?" I replied. When I mentioned Patricia's name, Kyle sounded surprised and exclaimed, "How do you know that?" "Did you think I didn't know you cheated? That's why I asked for alimony." "Yes, that's right, but alimony and child support? I can't pay that." "Why do I have to pay alimony anyway? You, who never did the housework, should be the one to pay," Kyle argued. I was shocked to hear Kyle's argument. I had asked for alimony and child support through a lawyer, but he hadn't paid yet. I knew Kyle didn't have a lot of money, but he should find a way to pay. Yet here he was, saying something ridiculous like I should be the one to pay alimony. "I noticed your affair and gathered evidence. Did you see it from the lawyer?" It seemed that Kyle had already seen the evidence from the detective agency. That would make things easier, but him calling me was ridiculous. "I wanted a divorce even before I found out about the affair because you never helped with housework or childcare, and you complained all the time. I'm not your housekeeper, you know, but it's good you're married now. You have someone else to look after you." But here's the thing, Patricia can't do housework. Before we got married, she said, "Leave everything to me." But once we got married, her cooking is terrible and she doesn't clean. I would have been better off with you. Marry me again. After all, You don't have any money, right? Lisa liked me too, didn't she? Kyle said, which annoyed me. What are you talking about? You divorced me and remarried. You're her partner, not my responsibility. And sorry to say, Lisa doesn't like you. And I have money. Don't lie to me. There's no way you have money. You were a housewife. You can't live without me. I had no intentions of telling Kyle about the fortune I inherited from my parents, but faced with his aggressive attitude, I had no choice but to reveal it. My parents are CEOs. Recently, I inherited their assets. It's around $52 million in total, so I can live without working for the rest of my life. I could almost visualize Kyle gaping on the other end of the phone as he heard about this fortune. You're lying. There's no way you have such a huge amount of money. It's true. If you want, I can have my parents tell you. With that, Kyle finally seemed to believe my words and fell silent. Then he suddenly yelled, "If it's true, why didn't you tell me?" Well, I wanted to tell you, but I knew about your affair and I thought the worst of you, so I thought it didn't matter. At that point, I hadn't yet inherited the assets and there was no issue of property distribution. Kyle bit his lip in frustration. He probably never imagined I had such assets. He must be regretting that he divorced me. But I didn't want to suffer his terrible behavior anymore. Can I hang up now? Please pay the alimony properly, reflect on your actions, and never call me again. Goodbye. With that, I hung up the phone. I immediately blocked Kyle's number so he couldn't call anymore. Mom, who were you talking to? Lisa walked into the room and asked curiously. Just a friend, I replied. But Lisa, do you want to go to the amusement park this weekend? Yes, Lisa smiled happily. Seeing her smile reminded me that her happiness was all that mattered to me. A few days later, I heard that Kyle had broken up with his new wife, Patricia. They argued because she wouldn't do housework, and Patricia ended up leaving him. Kyle, having been divorced twice in a short time, would probably find it hard to get married again. I hoped he would stay single for a while to prevent more people from getting hurt. After the divorce, Kyle lost his motivation and quit his job at the restaurant. He would probably find another job, but it might take him some time to get his life back on track. I felt a bit sorry for him, but his problems were his own doing. I blocked his calls so he couldn't ask me for money and I avoided places where we used to go together. In my life, Kyle had virtually disappeared. Eventually, Kyle paid the alimony but ended up in debt. I don't know how he'll manage, but I hope he learns from his mistakes. I'm still living comfortably at my parents' house. They told us we could stay as long as we like. After my legs fully healed, I started part-time work at a local flower shop. Even though I don't need to work, I find it better to be active and leave the house. I work hard on weekdays and spend weekends having fun with Lisa and my parents. I feel more joy in life than before and want to keep living happily with the people I love. I cherish these happy moments, especially when I see Lisa's smile. My name is Emma, and I'm a 20-year-old university student living in New York. My family has gone through a lot of changes. My parents got divorced when I was 14, and since then, I've lived with my mom. Things got even harder last year when my dad, who I was very close to, passed away from cancer. He left me a lot of money in his will, but I could only get it when I turned 20. This year, I finally reached that age, and then something surprising happened. One afternoon, my stepdad Justin, who is in his mid-30s and has been married to my mom for the last 6 years, asked to talk to me. Our relationship has always been a bit tense. I try to keep things peaceful, but he's not always been nice to me. He started the conversation with a serious topic. He suggested that I give the money my dad left me to my stepbrother Michael to help with his college expenses. According to Justin, Michael needed the money more for his education, and he thought it was only fair that I help out. I was shocked by his request. The idea of giving away the money my dad left for me felt wrong. I tried to explain to Justin that this inheritance was something my dad wanted me to have for my future, but Justin didn't agree. He insisted that I didn't need the money and that Michael's needs were more important. Despite his pressure, I stood my ground. I calmly explained to Justin that my decision wasn't about disrespect. It was about honoring my dad's wishes and keeping my personal boundaries. Justin got very upset and tried to intimidate me, but I remained firm in my decision. It was a tough conversation, but it was important for me to stand up for what I felt was right. I told him clearly that if he was upset by my refusal, he might want to rethink his approach. Justin, remember you're part of this household too, so let's try to keep things respectful, I suggested, but it didn't seem like we would reach a peaceful resolution. I ended the conversation and left before he could respond. Justin's reaction didn't surprise me given his past behavior. I had a feeling he might try to get the inheritance money for himself at some point. You might wonder about my mom's role in all of this. Well, that's complicated. My mom, for reasons I don't fully understand, always overlooks Justin's bad traits. She's deeply in love with him, almost to the point of being blind to his flaws. And I didn't want to ruin her happiness by constantly clashing with Justin. So I've tried to keep the peace for her sake. It's odd that even though I'm one of the youngest in the house, I often have to be the most responsible. At the time of this ordeal, my mom, Mary, was out of town, which is why she wasn't around to intervene. Had she been there, she would have been furious. Justin knew he had a window of opportunity with her away, underestimating my resolve in the process. As I walked away from our heated discussion, Justin followed, berating me and calling me a terrible sister for not wanting to give the inheritance to Michael. But it wasn't about not wanting to help, it was about the principle. Justin and Michael unfortunately seemed to follow the like father, like some trope, acting more like schemers from a cartoon than family members. Their antics reminded me of the characters Pinky and the Brain, with their roles in this scenario up for debate. As I tried to leave the argument behind, Justin wasn't done. He insisted I listen and comply with his demands, bringing Michael into the conversation to reinforce his point. Michael sleepily joined in, confused about the details until Justin prompted him about the supposed important reason behind their demand for the money, a supposed business venture that suddenly became about Michael's university tuition. Their story was inconsistent, with Justin scrambling to justify their claim to my inheritance, first mentioning a business, then switching to tuition. It was clear their motives were murky at best, relying on manipulation rather than any real need or right to the money my dad left me. I just woke up, so I'm a bit foggy, Michael mumbled, trying to piece together his story. Right, the university. I've been thinking about going, and I need the money for that, so yeah, I need it. His attempt to claim the inheritance for his education wasn't very convincing. I couldn't help but firmly say no, which sparked protests from both him and Justin. Why not, Emma? He's clear about what he wants, Justin pressed, insisting that they deserve the money. We'll just have to see about that, I replied, feeling the tension in the air. Justin's usual antics were harmless, but this new scheme to manipulate me out of my inheritance showed a selfish and immature side of him. I decided not to tell my mom right away, wanting to deal with the situation myself, especially after learning more about their questionable intentions. Emma, stop being childish. It's time to act like an adult and do what's right. Justin lectured, suggesting that giving away my inheritance was the mature thing to do. His reasoning didn't make much sense to me. And what, Justin? The right thing is to give away my inheritance just because you say so, I argued. His insistence on keeping this from my mom made me even more suspicious. Why shouldn't I tell her? She deserves to know what's going on in her own house. Justin's urgency to keep my mom out of it, along with his unusually stern attitude, made me even more determined. Something wasn't adding up, especially with the supposed business venture Michael mentioned earlier. It was clear they underestimated my awareness of their tactics, and Justin's resistance to involving my mom raised a big red flag. At the first chance I got, I decided to talk to my mom. Hey Mom, how's everything going? I started, trying to gauge her mood. I'm doing okay, dear. What about you? She replied. I hesitated, knowing what I was about to say might cause some trouble. Not so good, Mom. There's something going on with Justin and Michael. Justin especially. He's been acting really weird. My mom tried to calm me down, telling me not to worry too much. Oh, Emma, don't let your mind run wild. But it was too late to stop my suspicions. Everything seemed to point to something more than just a misunderstanding or me being paranoid. Even though my mom was hesitant to believe anything bad about Justin, I kept going, determined to make her see what was really going on. Mom, I understand you have feelings for him, but Justin went too far. He didn't just ask for the inheritance money. He demanded it for Michael, saying it was for education. There's something not right about all this, and he even got aggressive when I mentioned telling you. I explained, my determination growing despite her doubts. My mom hesitated, torn between her emotions and the troubling accusations against the man she cared about. I'm having a hard time believing this, Emma. I think we need more proof to understand what's going on. Don't worry, Mom. I'll find the evidence we need, I reassured her. Even though she wasn't fully convinced, I couldn't shake the feeling that Justin had somehow manipulated her. But I knew I needed solid proof to expose his true intentions. That night, I searched the family computer for any clues about Justin's behavior. Luck was on my side when I found his email account open. What I discovered was shocking. Emails between Justin and a woman named Martha revealed a web of deceit. These messages hinted strongly at an affair. But what caught my attention was their discussions about plans for divorce and a future together, fueled by money from a shady business venture. While Justin was careful not to mention anything illegal, his betrayal was clear. Armed with this information and determined to learn more, I decided to talk to Michael, hoping he might accidentally reveal more about their plans. I started a casual conversation with him, secretly recording our exchange on my phone. "Hey, Michael," I greeted him, pretending to be cheerful. "Hi, Emma," he replied, sounding happy. "You seem in a good mood today." "Why not?" "It's a beautiful day," I said, steering the conversation to find out more about Justin's plans and how they were affecting my family. I approached Michael with curiosity, pretending to consider the request for the inheritance money. "I've been thinking about what you and Justin said. I'm actually thinking about giving you the money for your college," I told him, watching his reaction carefully. "Really? That's great. I'll tell him right away," Michael said, sounding excited. "Wait, not so fast. Before we do anything, I need to be sure of something. This money is strictly for your college fees, right?" I asked, trying to see if he was being honest. "Yes, definitely for my college tuition." Michael stuttered a bit, sounding a bit unsure. "And you're certain about that? What about Martha? Is she involved in this too?" I pressed, mentioning the name I had found in Justin's emails. "Martha? Who's Martha?" Michael stumbled, confusion evident on his face. "Oh, she's a student advisor at the college," he quickly improvised, but it didn't quite ring true. Unbeknownst to us, Justin had entered the room silently, his presence intimidating. "I don't appreciate you interrogating my son like this," he interjected, his tone stern. "I was just asking about where the money is going. If I'm considering giving it away, I want to make sure it's being used properly," I explained, trying to stay calm. Justin's response was sharp. "Once you give money away, it's no longer your concern. It's not up to you anymore." The audacity of his statement stunned me, especially when he followed it up with a threat. "You're not just thinking about giving us the money, you will give it to us, or you'll find yourself out of this house." Michael looked just as shocked as I felt by his father's sudden escalation. "Dad, this isn't what we talked about," he started, but Justin cut him off, asserting his authority and threatening to kick me out if I didn't do as he said. I chose to stay silent, retreating to my room while recording the entire confrontation. Justin had no idea that his true colors were being recorded. Once I was safe in my room, I gathered all the evidence I had against him. It felt like I was a detective in one of those crime shows, piecing together the puzzle. I had audio recordings and email screenshots, all pointing to Justin's deceitful behavior and his affair with Martha. Feeling the weight of my findings, I knew it was time to involve my mom. "Mom, are you sitting down? I have something important to tell you, and it's not easy," I said, preparing her for what I was about to reveal. Breaking the news to my mom was difficult. I started by telling her about the unsettling discoveries I had made. At first, she found it hard to believe, but when I played the audio recording of my conversation with Justin, her denial started to fade, replaced by a mix of shock and heartbreak. "Why would he do such things? Why be so cruel?" she asked, her voice breaking with every word. "It's difficult to accept, but we're dealing with someone who doesn't have our best interests at heart," I replied gently, trying to offer support despite the harsh truth. "I hate to say it, but he's not the person we thought he was." Hearing the truth from the recording was a turning point for my mom. "This is unacceptable. I can't believe I wasn't here to protect you from them," she said, her initial shock turning into determination. "Stay where you are. I'm coming back right away. And yes, I've locked my door," I reassured her. My mom's protective instincts kicked in. She was ready to confront Justin and make sure he regretted his actions. He's going to realize he made a big mistake messing with our family, she said, her voice filled with determination. When she arrived, it was a moment of mixed emotions. We hugged tightly, sharing tears over the betrayal and the tough decisions ahead. But there was also a sense of relief and unity. Together, we spent hours planning, ready to face the situation as a team. In the days that followed, Justin was puzzled by my mom's sudden return and her cold attitude towards him. He tried to act cheerful, probably hoping to charm his way out of any trouble. But my mom saw right through him. She wasn't swayed by his act and was preparing to take action. Concerned about the true nature of Justin's business and the potential misuse of the inheritance, my mom decided to bring in professional help. She hired a private investigator to dig deeper into Justin's activities and the mysterious emails. The thought of him planning to misuse the money for unethical purposes made her furious, and she was determined to protect us from his deceit. The private investigator's findings confirmed our worst fears and shed new light on Justin's schemes. My mom filled me in on the details, and together we prepared for the next steps. It was clear that this was more than just a family dispute. It was about standing up against manipulation and ensuring justice was served. The atmosphere in the room was tense, a mix of disbelief and determination hanging between us. Justin's usual confidence seemed to waver under the weight of our accusations, his eyes darting around as if searching for a way out of our confrontation. "You don't know what you're talking about. This is absurd," Justin tried to deflect, but his voice lacked its usual assertiveness. It was evident that the tables had turned and the power he once held was slipping away. Caught in the middle of this familial turmoil, Michael looked from his father to us, his expression a mix of confusion and realization. Perhaps for the first time, he began to see his father for who he truly was, a revelation that seemed to shake him to his core. My mom, with a determined look fixed on Justin, stepped forward. "Not only do we understand, but we have proof. Emails, recordings. You've been planning to launder money through a laundromat, and you've involved yourself with a known criminal. Martha's record speaks volumes, and your plans for this business are crystal clear." Justin's attempts to maintain innocence were crumbling fast. "You have no idea what you're getting into. This is my business, my life. You can't just barge in and." "But we can and we are," I interjected, supporting my mom's stance. "This isn't just about your business, Justin. This is about our lives, our safety. You've brought danger and illegality into our home, and we won't stand by and watch you destroy everything for your own selfish gains." The evidence was undeniable. The audio recordings of Justin's and Michael's conversations, the emails outlining their plans, and now their own admissions made it impossible for Justin to deny any longer. The camera in my hands, still rolling, captured every word, ensuring there was no way out for him. "You think you're clever, recording this, gathering evidence," Justin sneered, his composure cracking further. "You may think you've won, but..." "We don't think we've won, Justin. We know we have." My mom cut him off, her voice strong and unwavering. "What you've done is not only morally wrong but also illegal. You've endangered this family, exploited my trust, and now you're going to face the consequences." As the confrontation reached its peak, Michael finally spoke up, his voice barely above a whisper. "Dad, how could you?" It was a question heavy with betrayal and disillusionment, aimed at the man he had once looked up to. The room fell silent, the weight of the situation settling in. Justin, stripped of his usual confidence, seemed to shrink before us. It was clear the charade was over. My mom's next steps were evident. Legal action, separation, and ensuring the safety and security of our family. As we left Justin to grapple with the consequences of his actions, my mom and I knew the road ahead would be tough. But armed with the truth and evidence, we were ready to face whatever came next together. The veil of deceit had been lifted, revealing a newfound strength and unity between us, ready to rebuild and move forward. "I don't know what you're implying. Why don't we call Martha? Maybe she can clarify things." Justin attempted to deflect, his panic thinly veiled. "You think you have it all figured out. Martha is just a friend," he added. But his confidence was rapidly fading. "The compromising picture we found tells a different story," I countered, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. "And seriously, who uses email for affairs these days? It's incredibly reckless." Justin, visibly flustered, retorted, "You went through my personal stuff? That's outrageous." "No, Justin, what's outrageous is you." my mom interjected, her voice filled with indignation. How dare you threaten my daughter over money that rightfully belongs to her? How dare you try to evict her from her own home? Your actions are indefensible. How dare you involve your son in your reckless plans, putting him at risk? And your audacity to plan illegal ventures with that money is unforgivable. Now, when it's time to face the consequences, you suddenly fall silent. She continued, her words sharp and slicing through the tension in the air. Justin, feeling cornered and desperate, snapped, "Get that camera out of my face." As he lunged towards me in a blind rage, I swiftly dodged his attempt, his aggression only emphasizing the seriousness of his unraveling. "Are you really about to attack my daughter? Do you understand the trouble you're in?" my mom exclaimed, her voice a mix of shock and fury. Justin, defiant until the end, sneered, "You think you know what's going on? You know nothing." "Well, let's see if the police agree with you. They should be here any minute now," I declared, watching closely for his reaction. "Police? You wouldn't dare," he blustered, but his confidence faltered as the sound of police sirens grew closer. Justin's usual arrogance faded, replaced by pure terror. It was the first time I'd seen him stripped of his bravado, revealing the coward underneath. "Please, Mary, let's not make this worse. I can explain," he pleaded, his voice cracking under the pressure. "Save your explanations for the judge, you disgraceful man," my mom retorted with a disgust that left no room for doubt. "And Michael, don't think you're off the hook. You'll face the consequences too." As the police arrived, it was evident that this marked the beginning of the end for Justin's schemes. My mom's powerful statement reverberated in the air, signaling a crucial moment of justice for us. "This should be a lesson to you about disrespecting my daughter and me. You're old enough to know right from wrong, and it's time for you to face the consequences." "Yes, Mom, I understand," Michael replied, acknowledging that he had crossed the line and needed to accept the consequences. "Come on, Grace, isn't this a bit extreme?" Justin attempted to argue, hoping for leniency. "On the contrary, this is just the beginning of what's deserved," my mom countered, her determination unwavering. "Emma, how's our live stream going?" she asked, adding a modern twist to ensure that justice was visible to all. "We have over 5,000 viewers tuning in. This is making an impact," I informed her, amazed at the digital audience we had attracted. And just to be perfectly clear, my mom addressed Justin directly, her voice firm and steady. "I want a divorce." "Yes, you heard it right," she declared, ensuring the live stream captured every word. The fallout from the live stream was immense. The drama unfolded in real time for over 5,000 witnesses, and the story quickly spread to local newspapers and tabloids. Being at the center of this whirlwind was surreal, witnessing the swift downfall of Justin, my soon-to-be ex-stepfather, and the complicit Michael. The satisfaction of seeing justice served was palpable. Justin's world crumbled as he lost his job, friends, and even the support of some family members who chose to distance themselves. Facing serious charges, his future hung in the balance, with the possibility of spending up to 20 years behind bars if found guilty. Meanwhile, Martha, his partner in crime, was also discovered by the police, facing similar charges and an uncertain future. Throughout the turmoil, my mom and I found strength in each other. Our bond deepened as we navigated through the chaos, emerging stronger on the other side. Weekends became our time to relax on the patio, drinks in hand, reflecting on the absurdity and cruelty of Justin's actions. It was a period of healing and reaffirmation for both of us. "Good riddance," we toasted, sharing a sense of relief and closure. Good riddance indeed. My in-laws were drunk at the wedding, but they didn't care even though people were whispering about them. They started yelling at me. "It's too late now that you're married, but if you want to be part of this family, you need to show us you have enough money," they said. "Yes, your dad is right, so make sure to give us $1,000 a month as a new bonus," they added. I was shocked by their demands. I couldn't believe they would say such things at my wedding reception. I just stared at them, feeling my face go pale. My dad took the microphone from them. "Enough is enough. Don't you realize you're embarrassing yourselves?" he said. "My name is Linda. I am a 30-year-old office worker. I am currently dating Larry, who is 32 years old. I met him through a friend who was worried about me being single, so she introduced us. After dating for a year, Larry proposed, and now we are about to get married. I lost my mother when I was very young, and my father raised me on his own. He worked very hard to take care of me. I didn't have many worries growing up, but losing my mom, who I loved so much, deeply hurt me. Because of this, I was very careful with my emotions. That's why I hadn't dated anyone seriously since my school days. I even thought it would be okay if I stayed single forever. Then I met Larry. At first, I didn't feel any romantic feelings for him, even though he asked me out many times. Larry really cared about me and was always a gentleman. Slowly, I began to open my heart to him, and we started dating. He kept caring for me, and I felt very happy. He became very special to me, and I started thinking I wanted to be with him forever. Then he proposed, and we decided to get married. Larry understood everything about me and was always kind to me no matter what. Don't worry, if you're ever feeling unsure about something, I'll be here for you until you feel better. I love you, Linda. You can count on me, he would say. His words moved me. He promised to make me happy for the rest of my life. Just being with him warmed my heart. If he cared that much for me, I thought I should do the same for him. When I told my father that we decided to get married, he was so happy that he cried. Wow, Linda, you're finally getting married. I'm so happy for you, he said. Oh, Dad, you're being dramatic, I joked. Wow, I hadn't heard anything like that from you until now. I was always worried that you might never get married, he replied. Oh, really? I had no idea you were worried about that, I said. Well, every father worries about his daughter, you know. Anyway, congratulations, he said. Thanks, Dad, I replied. I was so happy to be congratulated by my dad, who had raised me by himself. I thought I would probably cry at the wedding, and my dad would probably cry even more since he was already crying now. With that, Larry and I started preparing for our wedding. We were both busy with our jobs, so our days were very hectic. We worked during the weekdays and made wedding preparations over the weekends. There was no time to rest. Our calendars were always full. On a rare day off, we were supposed to visit Larry's parents' house. I was going to meet Larry's parents for the first time. Larry had come over to meet my father right after he proposed to me. Originally, I had planned to visit Larry's parents right after that to introduce myself. But they were very busy, and our schedules never matched. Finally, some time passed, and we managed to arrange a visit. As we arrived at his parents' house, I suddenly felt nervous. Don't worry, my parents are very kind, Larry reassured me. His words made me feel a bit better, and I rang the doorbell. It was his mother who opened the door. Mom, I'm home, Larry said. Welcome home, Larry. It's so good of you to come, his mother replied warmly. As she talked with her son, I greeted her as politely as I could. Nice to meet you. My name is Linda, and I'm Larry's fiancée. I see, so you're Linda, she said. Her voice was much lower than when she spoke to Larry, and her smile vanished. She looked me up and down as if judging me. Then she led us to the living room, where her cold attitude didn't change. Linda, I'm curious about what you bring to the table. Larry is our treasure and our only child. If you're going to marry him, you need to be a suitable wife. Are you worthy of him? She asked, more like an interrogation. I was taken aback by her question. I hadn't expected such a cold attitude from my future mother-in-law and was at a loss for words. You're going to join our family, you know. Are you ready for that? She continued. True, marrying Larry meant joining his family. But it's not like Larry's family were the Kennedys or some well-known high society family. It's not like I was marrying into a royal family. Why was I being asked to make such a commitment? Besides, I wasn't even going to live with them. I don't like being pressured with questions like these. As I was trying to figure out how to respond, his mother seemed impatient with my slow reply and scolded me harshly. When I ask you a question, answer me right away. You're so rude, she snapped. I'm asking if you're ready for this, she continued, raising her voice. Despite feeling overwhelmed, I managed to say, I hope that Larry and I will support each other in our marriage. When I said that, his mother was not convinced. What a naive thing to say. You aren't just going to support each other. You are supposed to support Larry. It's your job as a wife to support your husband. You don't even understand the basics, she criticized. Then Larry's father, who was sitting next to her, intervened. Honey, calm down. Sorry about that, Linda. You must have been startled by my wife's words, he said, trying to ease the tension. It's all right, I replied, trying to remain calm. His mother is very protective of her only son. Maybe she was just nervous and spoke without thinking. Just then, Larry's brother walked in. He spoke in a quiet, calm, and gentle tone. He seemed like a kind man, which gave me a moment of relief, but that relief was short-lived. With a smile on his face, he said the most unexpected thing. What my wife says is actually justified. What concerns me the most is that you come from a single-parent family. What do you mean by that? I asked, confused. Well, being raised by just one parent doesn't have a good public image. We can't be too happy to have such a person become the wife of our only son, can we? He explained. Hold on a minute, I said, unable to let this comment slide. What is wrong with being raised by a single parent? My father worked very hard to raise me by himself. I am very thankful for my upbringing, and I am proud of my father. Being raised by a single parent doesn't make me any less valuable. But they still argued. Since you were missing one parent, you couldn't have learned how to be a good wife, do housework, and such. I responded, I did a lot of housework to help my father. I can also cook pretty well, so please don't say that. Despite my response, Larry's mother ignored what I said and finally stated, I will allow you to marry Larry, but in exchange, you must promise to devote everything to us because we are Larry's parents. Can you promise me that? I was shocked. What? Since you came here to ask for our permission to marry our son, you do know what your duties are, don't you? Before I could say more, he continued the conversation. I found that my in-laws had completely taken over the conversation, giving me little chance to respond. That night, as I thought more about the marriage, I decided to share my feelings with Larry. Say, Larry, do your parents always talk to people like that? What about it? Larry seemed unfazed. I was surprised that Larry didn't see anything wrong with what his parents had said to me. Well, I mean the way your parents spoke to me and what they said, I tried to explain. Oh really? Well, they were just talking about whether you were ready for this marriage. I get that your parents are worried about their son's marriage, but I feel like what your parents were saying was a bit too much. Really? Why is that? My parents didn't say anything wrong. Besides, they've given us permission to get married, so don't worry about it. That's true, but I felt uneasy that Larry seemed to side with his parents more than with me. That was very troubling. I guess he realized I was feeling unsure because he gave me a hug. Linda, you don't have to worry so much. My parents are just a bit upset because their only son is getting married, he said. He spoke as if he didn't fully support me. It's all going to be fine. Don't overthink it. I'm sure they just want what's best for us. They want us to be as good of a couple as they are. That's why they were a bit harsh. Oh really? I replied, like he said maybe his parents have high expectations for us. But even if that's the case, I don't think it's right for them to belittle me because I was raised by my father. I don't think people who say such things make a good couple. We are the ones getting married, and we should be the focus, not their approval or disapproval. With that perspective, although I was still a bit upset, I decided not to dwell too much on his parents' opinions. Then the day of the wedding arrived. We had many guests, including our relatives, friends, colleagues, and bosses. I walked down the aisle with my father, who had raised me all my life. Larry and I exchanged our vows and rings. We were met with applause, and for the first time, I truly realized that I was getting married to Larry. I felt a happiness I had never felt before. As we walked into the reception hall, we made our way through the crowd, greeted by videos of us as part of the entertainment. It was a joyful time. I chatted with friends I hadn't seen in a while, and many people congratulated us. Despite my earlier worries about his parents, I was glad I had decided to marry Larry. I was glad we decided to have a memorable day. After the ceremony, we planned to officially register our marriage, and Larry and I would become husband and wife. I cherished every moment and felt so happy. Time flew by, and soon it was time for the final part of the event. The bridegroom and both sets of parents lined up to greet the guests. But I started to feel uneasy because of Larry's parents. We were all supposed to be standing in line, but his parents were wobbly on their feet. If you looked closely, you could see that their faces were bright red. They had drunk too much. Some relatives asked if they were okay. My in-laws were clearly drunk. But we had to wrap up the ceremony and get it over with. The moderator handed the microphone to me and Larry. Suddenly, Larry's mother snatched my hand away from him and yelled at me like a professional wrestler in the middle of a challenge. Listen to me, Linda. After this wedding, you are going to devote yourself to us completely. Prepare yourself because we are going to test you really hard. The guests started whispering to each other, and some even thought it was a joke and laughed. Then Larry's father grabbed the microphone. "Linda, don't you feel embarrassed to wear a dress like that?" "It doesn't suit you at all, dear. You should tell her the truth," his mother chimed in. As expected, the whispers among the guests changed in tone. I looked at Larry, hoping he would stop his father's rude comments, but Larry said he couldn't do that and that his parents weren't doing anything wrong. It became clear he would never protect me from his parents in the future. That was the moment I realized it. I was certain of it even as the hall buzzed around us. My in-laws were drunk and continued to insult me. "Well, you're already married, but if you're going to be part of this family, you need to prove that you have enough money," they said. "Yes, that's right," they continued. "After you register your marriage at the city hall, you should give us a few thousand a month and your entire bonus." I was shocked by their words. I never thought they would say such things at our wedding reception. I just stared at them, feeling my face go pale. My father took the microphone from them. "Enough of this. Don't you realize you're making fools of yourselves?" he said, though still showing some respect. His parents glared at my father. "Why are you interrupting us while we're talking?" I knew this woman's father was no good. "Single parents are never any good," they said. How dare they insult my father? I thought. My father, keeping his cool, replied, "You people are even worse than I imagined. You even refuse to meet me because I am a single father. I never thought that someone like you would work for President Scott. President Scott is such a respectable person. I assumed his employees would be decent as well." At that, my father-in-law's face turned very serious. How do you know President Scott?" "He's a business partner of my company and, more importantly, an old friend of mine," my father explained. "And speaking of single parents, President Scott was raised by his mother alone. So you just insulted the president of the company you work for." Seeing my in-laws' faces fall at my father's words, I realized they finally understood the mess they had gotten themselves into. "I apologize, sir. Please don't tell the president about this," my in-law pleaded, suddenly falling to his knees. Just moments before, he had acted like he was in charge, but now he looked defeated. I could hear laughter from the guests. Some even pulled out their cell phones to record the scene. "No matter how much you apologize, you can't take back your words," my dad said. He walked over to me and asked if I wanted to go home with him. I said yes and took the microphone from Larry's hand. "Thank you for the great entertainment, but there will be no marriage," I announced to Larry and his parents and to everyone who attended. "I will make sure to return the money you gave us for this occasion." Then I left the reception hall with my dad. I caught a glimpse of Larry and his parents looking dismayed, and soon after, his relatives rushed over with worried expressions on their faces. The place must have been in complete chaos. As I returned their money, I apologized to the guests. They all expressed sympathy for me and praised me and my dad for our actions, saying it was good that we weren't taken advantage of by such terrible people. Later, Larry's coworkers who had attended the reception must have spread the word about what happened at his company. Larry became known for having such unreasonable parents and was criticized for having a weak character. His embarrassment was so great that he resigned voluntarily. Of course, the president of my father-in-law's company found out about the incident. Larry's father was demoted and sent to an insignificant division of the company, transferred to a remote office in the countryside. I heard that Larry's family has been ostracized by all his relatives because of what happened at the wedding. While it's unfortunate, it really was their own doing, and sometimes things like that just can't be avoided. In the meantime, I've been using this opportunity to strengthen my relationship with my dad. We've been spending more quality time together, and it's helped me appreciate all he's done for me even more. One day, he sat me down for a serious talk. "Linda, are you interested in running the business?" he asked, looking at me with a mixture of hope and seriousness. "Do you mean?" I started, a bit unsure where he was heading with this. "Why don't you work towards becoming the president of my company?" he suggested. It was a big step, and he seemed to believe I was ready to take it on. "I'll do my best," I promised him, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. I decided then to focus on stepping up my game at work rather than getting entangled in romantic relationships for now. I wanted to prove to myself and to my dad that I could excel and perhaps one day be a great leader like him. Currently, I am deeply involved in learning everything I can at my dad's company. The work is challenging but fulfilling, and I'm determined to make the most of this opportunity. Reflecting on the wedding fiasco, it's clear that Larry's in-laws were quite unreasonable, turning what should have been a beautiful event into a spectacle. Thankfully, since the marriage wasn't officially registered, I was spared from a legally binding mistake. Now, free from any marital ties and with no looming in-law issues, I can focus solely on my career aspirations. It's a relief to know that out of a chaotic situation came a clear path forward for me. I look forward to what the future holds and am excited about the potential of leading the company. I wish myself all the best and hope that anyone watching this story can take something valuable from it. Thank you for staying till the end. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed this story, and I hope to see you in the next video.